Thank you, sir. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. I want to thank you all for being here this evening. This is the October 1st, 2020 special call meeting of the City County Planning Commission, and I will ask Ms. Martin to please call the roll.
Yes, ma'am. Commissioner Balance? Commissioner Balance?
I think she's muted.
Trying to unmute. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Commissioner Blackburn?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Clark? Commissioner Gay?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Graham? Commissioner Ritchie?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Starks?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Unseld?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Vitale?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Volkert?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Warren?
Yes, ma'am.
Chair Runner?
Yes, ma'am. You've all had a chance to review the summary minutes of the September 17th meeting. Are there any corrections to those minutes? Being none, I'd ask for a motion for approval, please.
So moved.
And a second, thank you.
Commissioner Balance?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Blackburn?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Gay?
Ma'am.
Commissioner Ritchie? Commissioner Starks?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Unseld?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Vitale?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Volkert?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Warren?
Ma'am.
Chair Runner?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Runner, I request that you order the record include all statutory and regulatory provisions that apply to tonight's hearings, the Commission's entire file for each application on tonight's docket, and the qualifications for each staff witness. Finally, I'd request that you administer the oath to those witnesses.
So ordered. Do you all swear to tell the truth before this commission?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions on the subdivision approvals that were in the packet? No questions. We'll move on to letters of credit and performance bonds. We have 4 items tonight. Are there any questions on those 4 items? No questions? Then I'd ask for a motion.
So
So moved.
Thank you. In a second.
Second.
Thank you.
Commissioner Balance?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Blackburn?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Gay?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Ritchie?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Starks?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Unseld?
Ma'am.
Commissioner Vitale?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Volkert?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Warren?
Ma'am.
Chair Runner?
Yes, ma'am. The first item tonight for public hearing will be docket number 2020-38Z County. CMC Properties LLC has filed an application for zone tract of land containing approximately 1.83 acres located at 318 Old Lovers Lane from agriculture to RS1D, which is single family residential with a general development plan. And with staff report, please.
Thank you, Chair Runner. We had a pre-application conference on July the 28th for the property you just referenced on Old Lovers Lane. Let me see. Jessica, I'm having a problem trying to flip through these slides. There it goes. Alrighty, so this is the property location on Old Lovers Lane. The current zoning of the property is agriculture, and the current use of the property is single-family residential. The future land use designation for the property, this property is actually in the Cemetery Road overlay and with the Cemetery Road focal point plan. And there's a specific future land use map for the Cemetery Road focal point plan. This particular property is designated as townhouse on the future land use map for the Cemetery Road focal point plan. And the proposal before you this evening involves a rezoning application for the purposes of subdividing the property into 3 single-family residential lots, which would include one twin home, which would be divided through the common wall. So there would be two total units up front as part of a twin home proposed along Old Lovers Lane, with the existing residence to remain on the rear portion of the property. Moving on, I'm going to jump to the site characteristics review on the next page of your staff report. First, the layout, lot sizes, and setbacks. The site plan is what's on the screen before you. This is the proposed layout. The setbacks would adhere to the RS1D standards in the zoning ordinance, which includes a 5-yard setback, 5-foot side yard setback, sorry, and a 10-foot rear yard setback. The applicants are proposing a 40-foot front yard setback along Old Lovers Lane. Under transportation infrastructure, staff has noted that the proposed development has frontage on Old Lovers Lane, which is a county-maintained urban local roadway with 50 feet of right-of-way and 16 feet of pavement width. There is also an existing Ingress-Egress easement running along the common property line between the subject property and the properties at 322 and 334 Old Lovers Lane. And that would be the entrance that's shown along the southern property line here on the exhibit. This easement encompasses the existing driveway and is utilized for the benefit of all 3 of these properties and is proposed to remain as is. Under wastewater adequacy, we've noted that the property is located within 2,000 feet of sewer and will connect to sewer if the proposal is approved. Under cultural or historical features, we've noted that the existing residence located on the property was constructed in 1939. However, it is not a locally designated historic property, nor is it listed on the National Register of Historic Places. Moving on to the site design and compatibility review. Let me see, I'm not able to change the slide, Jessica.
Do you have a little scroll down button?
Oh, there it goes. Oh, I think I went too far.
There we go.
Okay, so the density map here, under surrounding density, we've noted that there's a mixture of low and moderate density single family and multifamily residential uses in the area. Densities range from 1.86 to 13.03 dwelling units per acre. The density of the proposed development is 1.64 dwelling units per acre. Under building materials review, the majority of the existing residences fronting Old Lovers Lane are brick, although there are a couple of vinyl homes also mixed in. The applicants have committed in the development plan conditions that each residence shall be built with brick, EIFS, stone, modern masonry, or cementitious material, and that vinyl materials shall be limited to 50% or less of the exterior surface. No plain face blocks shall be allowed. Moving down to the area-specific policy review, there are 2 applicable policies that we selected to include in the staff report. First, CRC 1, all development in the Cemetery Road corridor shall conform to the future land use map unless evidence can be presented that the proposed use is in compliance with the policies of the Cemetery Road corridor policy plan and the comprehensive plan. The proposed development will consist of a maximum of 3 single-family residential lots to be developed in part, again, with attached single-family residential units. That's the one twin home that is shown closest to Lovers Lane on the site plan that's on the screen. And then, again, the existing house is proposed to remain. The Planning Commission should determine compliance with the future land use map, the townhouse category, and this policy. CRC 2, all residential development and redevelopment should be compatible with existing neighboring residential uses. The Planning Commission should determine compliance with this policy. Moving on to the development plan conditions. Number 1, underground utilities. All utilities, including infrastructure within the right-of-way, will be located underground. 2, access. The property will have 1 access point to Old Lovers Lane for each lot shown, the location of which will be approved by the Warren County Public Works Department. There will be no new access to adjacent residential uses. 3, the property may be developed per the concept plan with 3 building lots for single-family residences. The development must maintain 25% open space, excluding the public right-of-way. 4, all mature trees along common property lines with adjacent parcels shall be preserved. Any existing sinkhole or dry well structure shall be protected during and after development of this property. Any existing structure and or material not remaining after development shall be donated to a local reuse organization such as Habitat for Humanity Restore or similar facility. 5 looks at lighting. Street lighting will be provided by uniformly designed lighting poles of composite material or metal. 6, each residence shall be built with brick, EFS, stone, modern masonry, or cementitious material. Vinyl materials shall be limited to 50% or less of the exterior surface. No plain face block shall be allowed. And last, the minimum building setback along Old Lovers Lane shall be 40 feet from the property line. Any building site other than the front facing Old Lovers Lane will be screened with a double row of trees of evergreen and deciduous varieties. Moving on to the Focus 2030 category review, the staff evaluated 22 items for compliance from the Focus 2030 comprehensive plan and found 6 of those items to be in compliance. There were 2 items out of compliance, and there were 14 items that the Planning Commission should evaluate for compliance. The first of those being LU 1.1.3, the Planning Commission should determine if the proposal is compatible with the surrounding area and if it complies with LU 1.1.3. Next, the Planning Commission should determine compliance with the Cemetery Road Overlay Future Land Use Map and the Townhouse category in compliance with LU 1.1.1 and LU 1.1.2. The proposal may comply with LU 2 and 2.1. The Planning Commission should determine if the proposal is a high-quality development that includes design standards tailored to preserve the character of the area. Moving down to LU 2.5.2 and HN 1.2. The Planning Commission should determine if the proposed infill development is compatible with the surrounding area. Next, LU 2.8 and 2.8.1, which look at the Cemetery Road Focal Point Plan policies that were previously referenced. Next, NCR 241, development is located in an area where adequate infrastructure, including water and sewer, already exists. However, Old Lovers Lane is 16 feet in width. The Planning Commission should determine if the proposal complies with this policy. Next, NCR 25 and 253. I will mention there is a slight typo in the staff report, and the applicant may want to speak more to this, but I do not believe there are any immediate plans to demolish the existing single-family residence located on the property. However, the remaining text in your staff report would still stand true, as there is no commitment to preserve the structure. The applicants did commit in Development Plan Condition 4 that any existing structure or material not remaining after development shall be donated to a local reuse organization such as Habitat for Humanity Restore or similar facility. Next, HN1 and HN1.3, the Planning Commission should determine if the proposal is a compatible infill development that will maintain or improve the existing character, pattern of development, and urban design within the area, and if it will strengthen existing neighborhoods and districts. And last, HN 2.1 and HN 4, the Planning Commission should determine if the proposed development is located in a suitable location and if it will enhance the array of housing options available in the area. I'm going to jump back to page 1 and finish with our points to consider. First, the proposed development does incorporate attached single-family twin home units and would generally comply with the townhouse future land use category in the Cemetery Road Overlay. However, there is the existing single-family residence that's proposed to remain. The proposed development complies with the majority of the site characteristics review criteria and a majority of the review criteria for site design, with limitations noted relating to road width. And last, compatibility of the proposed development should be determined by the Planning Commission. And one last thing I will mention, I believe that Jessica included a couple of emails that we received regarding this application, and I believe also forwarded a voicemail that was left with our office, also with some public comment as it relates to this application. I think that's all I have, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, ma'am. Commissioners, do you have questions for Ms. Hurd?
Is there any way we can find out what those emails? I did not get any emails from anyone.
Commissioner Clark, I believe they were included with your packet. Jessica, did you say that they were in the packet?
Yes, ma'am.
They're in mine.
They're not in mine.
Hey, Rachel, so let me just make sure I got two things straight. It does fit the flume, and we're talking about adding 2 units to this parcel.
Yeah, so the future land use map for Cemetery Road is a little bit odd compared to what we normally see out of our comprehensive plan, and that there are only categories listed on the map, and there's not necessarily a category description. So all we can really go off of is townhouse. So whatever that means, that's up for you to decide, I suppose. There are attached single-family units incorporated in the proposal. So it's the opinion of staff that it would generally comply with that. However, that's up to your determination, I suppose, as well. And you're correct. The existing residence is proposed to remain with the addition of 1 twin home, meaning 2 attached single-family units along Old Lovers Lane.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Rachel, do we know where the 25% open space area is proposed to be?
The applicant may want to speak more to that. I believe that that is intended to be per lot within the development.
Okay.
I don't know that I don't think there's a common area that's designated. It was just that each lot individually would have at least 25%.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do we have any other questions for Rachel before we hear from the applicant?
So Rachel, they're just proposing 1 single twin home with 2 units. Is that correct?
Correct.
And are the neighbors okay with it?
Well, we've heard from a couple of the neighbors with the voicemail that was forwarded in the emails. I'm not sure if there's anyone on the call that would like to speak to this application.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, we are. We would like to speak to, we are not for this at all. It does not fit in this neighborhood.
Excuse me, ma'am, excuse me.
Yes.
We will hear from the applicant, and after the applicant gives their presentation, then we will allow you for any comments or ask any questions, okay? We just want to keep the order of the meeting going. So we realize there's opposition, and we will allow you the time to speak. Thank you.
Rachel, under the brief summary of request, it talks about 2 twin homes. So are we talking about 1 that would be 2 units? Are we talking about 2?
Yes, sorry for the confusion in the wording there. We should do a better job of that in the future, I suppose. Twin homes are kind of a new product, relatively new, that have come before the Planning Commission. And so you are correct, there's only 1 structure that's proposed along Old Lovers Lane, and a lot line would go run down the middle of that structure, subdividing it into 2 units on 2 separate lots.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Ms. Hurt before we hear from the applicant? Nothing else? And I believe Mr. Davenport is here.
Yes, good afternoon, Chair Runner. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Good evening, Commissioners. Chris Davenport. I have the pleasure tonight of representing CMC Properties. Their principal, Casey Simpson, is in the room with me, off frame, but he is here, and also Aaron Arnold with Arnold Consulting Engineering Services, who performed the engineering work and drafted the concept plan that we were just looking at. He is also with me in case we need any questions of either of those gentlemen. Commissioner Ritchie, to your point, the first thing I want to do was to clarify, because I sometimes get confused myself. When I looked at this concept plan, I started looking for 3 twin home buildings, and I couldn't quite figure out what I was looking at. Thank you, Rachel. But with some help from my engineering friend sitting to my right, I was able to learn pretty quickly that what we're looking at is, in fact, I guess we call it 1 twin home. It'll be under 1 roof, and there'll be 2 single family units that comprise that. These lots have a 0 lot line, which means that the 2 units share a common wall. To Rachel's point, this is kind of unique in that we are in an overlay district here, which means we get a little bit more specific with the flume, I would argue. In this case, the flume says that this area is designated as townhomes or townhouses. At least in my mind, as far as what a townhouse is, at a minimum, it would be residential units that share a wall. Some maybe 2, or maybe you could have a row of 16 of them. But what I think, at least in my mind, what clarifies or signifies a townhouse is the common wall, which is in fact what the twin home has that my client is asking to be approved tonight. The second thing I'll say about the concept plan, I've got to remind myself, is the scaling of it. That's almost 2 acres that you're looking at. So a lot of times when I see a concept plan with a twin home, it would be a much smaller area, and the scale would be quite different than what we have. So that is 1.83 acres, almost 2 acres you're looking at, just so we all have some sense of the scale of that concept plan. One thing I wanted to point out, and Rachel's already done it, but the density here that the staff calculated for the area, this application is actually lower than any density that was noted in the area. Rachel, you didn't do this in your report, but I would like to ask from you before I'm finished tonight, what the lot sizes are across the road. I've done that. I know what they are, but I would like the record to indicate that. I know that's going to take you a minute to look that up, but I can come back to that in a minute. Because if you look on the density map, we don't have a density calculation for those lots immediately across the road. But I think what we'll find when we look up those lot sizes, they are about between 3/10 and 4/10 of an acre. Which by my math, those lots are actually more dense than the area that we're looking at to rezone tonight. So I've mentioned the density. I've mentioned the flume designation of townhouse, which I think is entirely consistent, if not identical, to what we're asking for. We are, Commissioner Clark, you're exactly right. This application is only asking for the approval of 1 additional twin home on the property. It will result in 3 residential lots. I've read the emails from 2 neighbors, I think it was, and I listened to a voicemail, and those complaints refer to apartments and duplexes. I guess at the outset, I would just point out, this is not a multifamily request. This request is for single-family homes. There will have to be single-family use in the existing home as well as the twin home. So I just want to make that point at the outset. Maybe we can not get confused by that later in the hearing. Rachel, you did mention the existing home. It is my client's intention to leave that and continue to use that as a single-family residence. There are no intentions to tear that down. But probably the biggest point I need to emphasize to the commission is one of these DPCs says that the property will have 3 single-family lots. And what that means is, if this is approved and we have 2 lots existing in the twin homes, the remainder of the acreage will have to remain 1 single-family lot. That may be a nuance that neighbors don't, I could not blame them if they didn't appreciate the significance of that development plan condition. But I think that's an important thing to point out. Just looking through my notes, the reason why we have a 40-foot front setback, that is considerably higher than what the zoning standard would require. My client agreed to do that so there's consistency with the existing front setbacks on the street. So instead of building a home that's considerably closer or more proximate to the road, they increase that setback, so that's not an issue. I believe Commissioner Starks had a question about the open space. That open space requirement is per lot. And that's a very good question. And what that means is the twin home lots can't take advantage of the massive open space that's in the existing lot. So that's on a per lot basis, so that, you know, I guess if it could take advantage of that other lot, you could have almost 100% lot coverage on the twin home lots and still have 25% in the whole 1.83 acres. But that minimum is per lot, so that there's no question. And I'll tell you, Mr. Arnold tells me that the concept plan actually provides for probably close to 50% open space on those two twin home lots. Rachel, did you have a chance to look at those lot sizes across the street?
Yes, I did. One is around, as you mentioned, 0.39 acres and another one 0.36 acres. So the density for those lots would be 2.56 and 2.78 dwelling units per acre, approximately.
And that compares to our request tonight, which would result in about 1.6. Am I remembering that right?
Yes, the proposed density for your application is 1.64.
Okay. So as usual, Rachel pretty much told you, I think, the most important parts of the application. I know I've been a bit redundant, I always am, but from my viewpoint, you've got an application here that's consistent with a very specific flume, which is townhouses. You've got an application that from a density standpoint is less dense than the development that's already out there. We're essentially looking at, as a result of this, having 3 single family lots, or 3 single family units, if you want to look at it that way, on about 1.83 acres. The added benefit is that we're within 2,000 feet of the sewer. We've got to pay to connect to the sewer as well. But other than that, I'm happy to answer any questions any commissioners might have.
Thank you, Mr. Davenport. Commissioners, do you have any questions for Mr. Davenport?
Chris, the only thing that really jumps out at me, and I think we talk about it in most meetings, y'all got 50% for maximum or minimum siding. Is I would ask that would y'all take that to 75 or 80%?
We'll take, and Commissioner Volker, I also noted that when the application was filed, and I've talked to my client about that. They'll go to a maximum of 20% vinyl, which means a minimum of 80% brick, cement, hardy board, stone, or similar material.
That's great. Thank you.
And I'll tell you, that was their plans essentially anyway. So there's, as I told them, no reason not to expect that request and no reason not to agree to it.
Thank you very much.
Chris, are these 2 units going to be sold? They will not be rental property, is that correct?
They can be sold. They could be rented. I'm not going to mislead you. That's not the intent at this point. But legally speaking, they could be rented. But at least from a zoning standpoint, I think the real difference here is the single family nature versus a multifamily nature. And so what I mean by that is, regardless of whether it's owner occupied or it's a rental, the use of the property will have to be single family. And maybe Rachel can explain that better. Sometimes I think folks think that multifamily means rental and single family means owner occupied. I think those aren't necessarily congruent notions.
Chris, I would say that's accurate, and this may be a good time. There's actually a few questions in the chat relating to that same question that Commissioner Clark had, is whether or not the twin home would be sold, that each lot would be sold individually or rented. But as you've stated, Chris, the single family zone does not equate to owner-occupied property. It could be either or. There's another question in the chat inquiring about the difference between a duplex and a twin home. So both unit types, or both residential unit types, both a duplex and twin home, contain 2 units. A duplex would be located on one lot. So both units within the duplex would be on the same piece of property. Whereas with a twin home, each unit can be sold with the land individually. So the lot line would go down the common wall between the 2 units, and each unit and the property on either side could be sold individually. So I hope that helps answer the difference between a twin home and a duplex. I can go further into that if need be, but I think those were the 2 questions in the chat. There are a few that I haven't had time to read yet, but I will get on those and we'll get through them all before the hearing is over.
Is there any way to blow that exhibit up a little bit to see how why they're putting 3 units on one lot, or where the lot breakdown is? I'm not seeing a lot breakdown. It looks like 3 things on one unit. I mean, 3 units on one lot.
It is.
Rachel, are you able to blow that up any, or Jessica, or?
Sandy, I think you can just make it bigger on your screen. If you just touch the screen and enlarge and move your fingers up, you can make it larger.
It's not letting me.
Rachel, you're muted, Rachel.
No, I'm touching it. It's not letting me.
If you see, if you look at it, it looks like the lot line is what they've done is right down the middle of the twin home, and then they've created the new lot. So you have 3 lots, correct, Rachel?
Yes, there are 3. I'm sorry. I'm still trying to zoom in. Jessica, can you, if I give you control, are you able to zoom in closer?
The zoom in function went away from the screen, but I'll work on it.
And it has to be 3 lots, because a twin home can be sold as 2 different individuals. So for someone to buy one half of the twin home, they've got to have a separate deed so they can either get financing if need be.
That's exactly right, Commissioner Volker.
So if you look at it, Sandy, what it is where the twin home is right there. That's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Where the twin home is, you can see the line going down the middle.
Yes,
that will separate the 2 lots. That will separate the 2 lots.
Those 2 lots, but how does it separate off the big lot?
The one lot will still remain probably 1.3 or 1.4.
Right.
Thank you, Jessica, for fixing that.
I'll work on zooming out. I'm not sure. Here we go.
Do we have any other questions for the applicant before we hear from opposition, commissioners?
Chair Runner, there are a couple of other questions in the chat. Would now be a good time to try and answer those?
Yes, ma'am, please.
Thank you. So there's one question, and this may be something, Chris put this on your list. There's a question as to how this application will benefit the surrounding houses. Next, there is a question, would like to know why they are asking to rezone to RS1D, which according to page 4 of our packet says they can have up to 13 dwelling units per acre. I think that may be for an upcoming application, not this particular application. Sorry, I'm scrolling through here. I don't want to overlook anything.
So Rachel, it's a fair statement to say that they could be asking for more density than what they're asking for tonight.
I believe, and I apologize, after reading that question, I believe that is for one of the docket items later on this evening, so we may have to come back to that. There is a question about the size of the twin home lots. Aaron, I think, is Aaron with Chris? Can Aaron answer the lot size question for each of those lots?
Let me see if I can work. There we go.
So, by the exhibit there.
But she's going to need to swear in.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, this is Velma Runner. Let me go ahead and get you sworn in. If you'd state your name and address.
Aaron Arnold, 230 Scottsdale Drive, Bowling Green, Kentucky.
And you swear to tell the truth.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, there you go, sir. Thank you. I apologize for interrupting.
So that twin home lot is 152.8 by 50, which is 7640 square feet, or 1.175 acres.
No.
Which is a little larger than what is the minimum required for the RS1D single family designation twin home.
I think that's 5,000, isn't it?
Yeah, the minimum is 5,000. And we're at 74.
Aaron, is the 7,400 per lot or for the entire area?
That's for the entire twin home.
Okay.
Yes.
Chair Runner, I believe I don't know if all of the commissioners are able to read the statements in the chat. And Ben, you may want to speak to this. I don't know if I need to read the statements or if we'll just leave it to the public here in just a second to just express their statements or concerns that way. I think we've gotten through most of the questions for this application that are in the chat.
But there are some statements, is that what you're?
I think
yes,
unless Mr. Moore has a different idea, I think let's just maybe call on the people who have made these statements in the order of the chat box and then let them.
Hey, Ben, there looks like in the chat, there's an attorney representing maybe some of them that's asked to speak first.
Can I ask a question first?
Well, let me, let's, this is the first time we've encountered chats as a part of our discourse. And I don't think we have any capability of incorporating the chats into the record. So if we're going to respond to the chats, then Rachel, if you would read the whole question, and then we can give an answer so that it's on the record. But I think the better process would be to ask those individuals to ask their question on the Zoom recording, and then the answers can be given.
I agree.
I agree with you also, but we do, the chat is captured as part of the record of the recording.
Oh,
just to
well,
clarify.
Good, glad to know that.
Can I ask one more question before we start opposition?
Yes, ma'am.
I have a question, and that brought up what Rachel said. If we do this whole entire 3 lots into RS1D, can they come back and put more twin homes on there?
Commissioner,
just for this?
Commissioner Clark, so the development plan conditions included with this application limit the maximum number of lots to 3. So if this proposal is approved this evening, that would be the maximum number of lots, unless the property owner or owners came back at a later time and applied to amend their development plan to allow for anything greater than 3 lots.
Okay, well, that's why I wanted to make sure, because it seemed like an awfully lot of land just for that. Then it got me thinking about, are they going to come back and try to put more on there? So, okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Mr. Davenport, is that the understanding you have of?
That's exactly right, Mr. Starks. And I would add a little bit to that. Not only do I have to come back, but that process of amending the development plan conditions requires an application and notice, advertisement, and a public hearing that's identical to this rezoning hearing. So just in case someone had some fear that that's a different process, that all the same requirements are necessary.
Any other questions from the commissioners? No. Then Rachel, do you want to call on those people? And if they are here, they can make that statement or ask the questions?
Yes, ma'am. First in the chat, Sabrina Nero.
Hello?
Yes, if you would state your name. This is Velma Runner. If you would state your name and address for us, please.
Sure, it's Sabrina Nero.
And your address?
I'm sorry, 334 Old Lovers Lane?
Yes, ma'am, and you swear to tell the truth?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. You can go ahead and ask a question or make a statement.
I want to know how this is going to benefit us. I have children, and we already have enough traffic on this road. My children play out in the yard, and I have to worry about them all the time. I don't want any houses built here. I moved here from New Jersey for open land, and now not to look at other houses next to me, and I don't feel that this should be built next door.
Yes, ma'am. We'll go ahead and get all of the opposition and just get it that way. Mr. Davenport or the staff can answer those questions or concerns, anything they want to address after we get the list. Do we have anyone else?
Chair Runner, next in the chat is a Sheila Lunty, but I believe, and she'll have to confirm, I believe her question relates to a different application.
No, it doesn't. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm Sheila Lunty. I live at 381 Old Lovers Lane. I am quoting from the paperwork that I printed out dealing with this rezoning, and it is CCPC, and it says moderate density residential, which is RS1D. This land use designation encourages areas developed for higher density, single family, detached and attached RS1C and RS1D, as well as semi-detached multifamily developments such as duplexes and townhouses, apartment buildings, condominiums, and mobile home parks. Densities in this land use should range between 3.5 and 13 dwellings per acre. Now, my question is, if they don't want to put more than what they're planning right now, why aren't they asking for a lower density residential rezoning? Because the way I read it, if they get this, they can come back and say, well, we got an RS1D, we can put up to 13. I also know they own more property in the neighborhood adjacent to it, and I'm afraid that if they get this in, we're going to be swamped with the same things we've got behind us. That's my concern.
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, I'm terribly sorry, but can you tell me which page you're reading that from?
According to this, it's page 4. And it was in the docket case application that I got, and I printed off of your site. And it says Cemetery Road Overlay Townhouse. And this was all in the same packet. And it says the applicants would like to rezone 1.83 acres, blah, 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 to RS1D. And then on page 4, it gives a definition of the different zonings. It says there's agricultural, there's rural density residential, low density residential, and moderate density residential, which according to this is what they're asking for. And it says they can ask for up to 13 dwellings per acre.
Ma'am, that is a category, a future land use category from our comprehensive plan, but that is not the future land use category for this particular property. And I apologize, without seeing the document you have, I'm just a little confused where that's coming from. The future land use category for this property is the townhouse category. There's no density outlined for that particular category.
Okay, but if you're asking for an RS1D, doesn't it cover the whole board?
So
I
the
mean,
the RS1D zone doesn't always relate to the proposed density. Sometimes just because of the lot width that's proposed, there are different single family zones that may be less dense, but because of the lot size and lot widths, I believe that is why the request is for RS1D. There would be no other zone in our ordinance that could accommodate the proposed configuration of the 3 lots that are shown on the site plan. So that's why that is why the applicants requested the RS1D zone.
Well, according to the definition of low density, 0 to 4.5 dwellings per acre. Oh, why didn't they go for that?
So the low density category you're referencing is actually a future land use designation out of the comprehensive plan. It's not a specific zoning district.
And ma'am, and the other thing I would say that to maybe ease your mind a little bit, if I was them and I wanted a lot more density, I would be asking for it tonight, not to rezone it this way and then try coming back. Because once this is done and it's put in the development order, it will be awful tough to come back to it and say, whoops, I don't want 3 units now, I want 13. It would be extremely hard to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Chair Runner, shall I keep going?
Ma'am.
Just to confirm, I did skip over, and my apologies, I didn't do that intentionally. There was a question from John Weatherby and a question from Tim Meyer. I believe I explained the answer to those questions earlier, but if not, please speak now and I'll be happy to go into more detail on those questions.
Rachel, go ahead, John.
Thanks, Tim. This is John Weatherby. I live at 388 Old Lovers Lane.
Yes, sir. This is Velma Runner. Do you swear to tell the truth before this commission?
I do swear to tell the truth.
Thank you, Mr. Weatherby.
I have another question other than what I had listed there. And you did answer the question that I typed in. The question that I have is for the Planning Commission, not for the people that are proposing this change. What is the Planning Commission looking at as far as a 16-foot roadway and the number of people that are accessing this, what used to be a really peaceful road until we got, I don't know how many units are put on the end of this road in the apartment complexes that were built without anybody knowing what was going on there. And that's probably my fault, but there's a lot of children that like to walk down this road. This road does not have a sidewalk. And if we keep increasing the density just by adding 1 place at a time or 2 places at a time, what has the Planning Commission done to look at that? So I'd like to know what you've done, because that's one of the issues that Rachel brought up that you as the Planning Commission are supposed to look at, is that 16-foot roadway and how many people live on it.
I think what we look at, I think we looked to see, first of all, is it compatible in the area? Second of all, does it, with adding two more lots to this road, does it put this road in a I guess harm's way of a real traffic issue? A lot of that is really put onto the highway department, on the transportation department, to tell us what needs to be done, if anything needs to be done. So I think those are a couple things that we really look at as this planning group before we either pass or fail an application that comes to us.
Does anybody on this commission know how many people live on Old Lovers Road? Do you know how many are there right now? And I know a few more, but if you don't know how many live there now on this little 16-foot roadway, how can we keep adding if that's not part of your calculation?
And that is not a calculation that we do every other Thursday when we're looking at a development. We do not count all of the other residents on a road. We leave that really up to the highway department to tell us if something else needs to be done.
I guess then, Commissioner, what I'm asking is what exactly, if you're saying that you don't look at that, what was Rachel talking about that said that you have to look at the 16-foot roadway?
I may be able to clarify that. So within the staff report, I touched on several different items, and in our comprehensive plan, there are different goals, objectives, and action items that are included in each staff report, depending on which items from the plan are applicable to the proposed development. And so the Planning Commission is essentially tasked with reviewing each of those goals, objectives, and action items in deciding whether or not they would recommend approval of this application. And so it's not uncommon with any application that's before the Planning Commission that all items are not necessarily deemed in compliance. So the planning commissioners, they'll each just place their own weight on the importance of each of those items. Maybe one of the commissioners tonight feels strongly about that should, I think it was LU 2.4.1 is that item that I'd referenced. Let me verify that that's the correct number there. Yes, so that's just one of the items that staff evaluated. And so if any of the planning commissioners this evening feel very strongly about that item, they may include that in their consideration this evening. But there are also several other items that they're looking at this evening that will factor into their decision.
Thank you. Then that confirms what I was saying, that if they are going to factor that into their consideration, they should know how many people live on that very short little 16-foot roadway called Old Lovers Lane.
Rachel, I have a couple extra questions, if I may.
Yes, sir.
If this is Velma Runner, if you would state your name and address, please.
My name is Tim Meyer. I live at 329 Old Lovers Lane, and I do solemnly swear to tell the truth tonight.
Thank you, sir.
This little neighborhood, Old Lovers Lane, I've lived here for roughly almost 30 years. The property across the street from this residence that you're proposing has been open agricultural land for the whole time that I've lived here. Every little kid in the neighborhood has played in that yard, played in those fields. We even had a neighborhood outing in that field for years. Prior to the Cemetery Road new construction, Old Lovers Lane at 16 feet was the cut through for everybody that was going from Lovers Lane to Cemetery Road. When that road changed, it slowed down our traffic. Our kids could get out and play in the front yard. Neighbors could walk on the street. And now when they built the addition to 161 Old Lovers Lane, Lovers Lane's apartments, we have now increased our traffic patterns tremendously. We have people using that entrance from Lovers Lane to get into 161 Old Lovers Lane. The posted speed limit out here is 25 miles an hour. We do not have anybody doing 25 miles an hour. This applicant last year approached planning and zoning for a multifamily complex there, pulled it off at the last night before it went to Planning and Zoning Commission. He was unable to obtain right-of-way from the neighbors that have the right-of-way to that house, and he has since bought the house at 322 Old Lovers Lane, and now is using that as an alcohol recovery house, not single-family residential. So the driveway right-of-way for 322, 334, and the other piece of property that he's belongs to him has now become a dragway for everybody that lives at 322 Old Lovers Lane. His resident in his back apartment has young children. 334 Old Lovers Lane has young children. The children can't play in that neighborhood anymore. What is going to stop him from taking these two single-family duplexes? They are a duplex. They're two homes on one piece of property. You can call them what you want, but it's a duplex. What is going to stop him from making those an alcohol recovery houses that have multiple families living in them, not single families like he's requesting? My understanding that property that he has at 334, he's getting away with because he's calling it an Oxford house. That's an alcohol recovery house. We have all kinds of people coming in and out. We don't know what type people they are. I'm sure several of them are felons. We're not sure if any of them are child molesters. We have to worry about that every day in this neighborhood. He can ask for these property that he's asking for today, and then he can come back and ask for more. We know that. We don't have the money that he is paying for his attorney to stop any of this. We are citizens of Warren County. We're asking that you deny this tonight. If he wants to come back later and talk to the neighbors and see if we can come up with a resolution for him, we'll all be glad to sit down with him. But I don't think this meets our neighborhood as he proposed it to. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, I would like to say one thing. It is not a duplex. It is a townhome. It's a twin home. It is two separate lots. It has to be that way. A duplex is something that you would have to finance the two of them together. So I'm not trying to argue with you, but this is a twin home with separate deeds and separate lots.
Commissioner, you can call it what it's like. It's two homes on one piece of property. Is he going to take two mortgages, construction loans out for that property? Or is
if he sells the units off, two people will take two different mortgages for that property.
I understand that, sir, but it's still, in my book, a duplex. It's two people living in it. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Meyer, I may clarify one other question I think you had, or I can't speak to the adjacent property that you're referencing, but the proposed RS1D zone is a single-family zone. The use you've described on the adjacent property is classified as group living and is not permitted in single family. So in the instance that that use were to pop up on this property for some reason, we do have a code enforcement officer through our office who is tasked with investigating use violations as it relates to the zoning ordinance. So that would not be a permitted use in the proposed zone.
Okay, but I've called your office and talked to them about 322 Old Lovers Lane, and they said the Oxford house is permitted, even though it is zoned as single-family residential. So I guess I'll call the zoning commissioner and see what, Mr. Hetty, and see what he says about it, because we never did get a notification that he was changing or asking for a conditional use permit to take that single family residence and use it as a alcohol recovery house. So I guess we'll just need to talk to somebody later at a different date about that property. Thank
Mr.
you.
Meyer, I can follow up with Mr. Hetty tomorrow on that.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Possibly pull up the existing zoning map for us so we can see what property we're talking about. Is it right next door or down the road?
Hold on a second. I got some. That's not up for discussion tonight. We're not looking at a zoning on that. I mean, I'm not trying to be. I mean, that is not about the zoning request that's being done tonight. That property is insignificant on what we're looking at tonight.
Well, when he's concerned about the number of vehicles on the road, that is a concern of ours. And we do need to know if there is such a thing down through there. Because if there are kids playing, yes, the community is concerned about a 16-foot road with extra cars on it.
How many extra cars would two houses bring, Sandy?
I'm sorry?
How many, two additional houses, how many cars you estimate you think that would bring?
Oh, I'm thinking just this would be 6 cars. But I'm thinking if there's other things up and down this road that are concerning, then yes, we should be concerned about extra things, apartments and everything else up and down through there.
Who do we have next, Ms. Hurt? You're muted.
I'm sorry. Thank you. Next in the chat, if we're sticking to our order here, is looks like Joy Beth Spinks.
Yes. Joy Beth Spinks, 864 Fairview Avenue.
And you swear to tell the truth?
Yes, ma'am. I think that the residents have, and I represent Mr. and Mrs. Tommy and Teresa Long. They are adjacent property owners to 318. They own the lot right next to it, which is 2 acres. And I want to focus a little bit on the density because I think we're losing a little bit of the nuance. So the 2 properties that are being cut out of this larger 1.83 acres, the density on those 2 properties is very different from the overall density for the 3 lots together. And even looking at the properties across the street, those acreages are much lower than even the properties across the street, which have smaller acre sizes than the properties on the same side of the street that these twin homes are going to be on. On that same side of the street, Mr. and Mrs. Long have a property that's 2 acres, and that's right next to it. On the other side, Mr. and Mrs. Nero have a property that is larger than the properties that these twin homes are being proposed to be put on. And I think a lot of the concern tonight is that, you know, the density of these properties that the twin homes are being proposed to be put on is heralding what that density is going to turn into for the rest of that property. And additionally for 322, which CMC has also purchased, which is another adjacent property to that lot. And I think the people in this neighborhood understand and respect that this is a difficult process. You know, if this gets approved tonight and they're going to have to come back and reapply and have another public hearing. But the truth of the matter is that the first application on this lot went in over a year ago and has been withdrawn and changed. So the owners of this property are not afraid to, you know, take the time that's needed and the effort that's needed to develop this property the way that they want to. And in 2019, that proposal was for 14 to 18 townhomes on that 1 acre lot and tearing down the farmhouse in the back. And I think a major concern of the neighbors is that, you know, that's the ultimate plan that they want to happen on this property. And so it is up to the commission to decide whether the application in front of them tonight is compatible with that neighborhood, which we still argue that it's not, because these twin homes are not the single family or not the single story and split story homes that are facing Old Lovers Lane right now. But I think what you have to consider as well is at what point would the character of this neighborhood change, you know, if they come back every year and ask to put in one more twin home, at what point are you going to say that the neighborhood's changed? And if this application is approved tonight, then CMC becomes the largest adjacent property owner and, you know, could possibly have more sway on what happens to the rest of that property. I don't want to repeat what the other residents have said, but, you know, the key concerns here are the character of the neighborhood, the traffic, which is already a problem in this neighborhood, the property value decreasing, especially, if these homes become rentals. I don't know what the ultimate intention of the property owners is, if they're going to sell those or if they're planning on renting those out. And then additionally, I don't think this has been touched on too greatly, is that property actually sits up on a hill. And so there are some blind spots with the traffic because of that property already. I think there are some concerns that would only be exacerbated by putting twin homes on that property. And then the water flow off of that property, once it's developed, would go onto the adjacent properties. And so, my goal tonight is I just want to make sure that these objections of the community members are formally lodged, and ask the commission to consider, if one twin home is not gonna, or two twin homes, however it's being characterized, is not gonna change the character of this neighborhood, what is, because I think this is gonna be a recurring issue that we're gonna have to deal with. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Chair Runner, I was scrolling through the rest of the chat comments. I believe the majority have, I guess the people in the chat had repeat comments. So I think we've accounted for everyone with the exception of one person. Their name is not displayed with their chat. It just says from iPhone. So I'm not sure who that is.
Teresa Long.
Yes, ma'am. Teresa Long. If you would give us your address, please.
290 Old Lovers Lane.
And you swear to tell the truth?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. You can go ahead and make your comment or ask your question.
Okay, my comments start with is a lot of these people have lived on this road for 30 or 40 years. My husband's been here since 74 because his parents bought this property initially. And if you look, I don't know if you can see, but if you can see, these properties, a twin home just will not fit in to the look of this neighborhood or anything about this neighborhood. And if they just wanted to put one home, I don't know of anybody in this neighborhood that would object to it if they just built a house here. But like she said, I don't want to repeat things, but it does sit up on a hill. There is a big valley in the back, and I wish I could show it to you, but I'll lose my internet connection when I try to move. So they can't build that. It's in front of the house in the back. They can't build back there, so they have to build up here. And like she said, we have trouble now when there's no one renting back here. When there's no one renting this, they don't mow it. So we have to mow it just so we can see how to get out of our driveway. And with the people flying up and down this road like they do, it's dangerous. And so if they build that, are they going to do something where we can still see how to get out of our driveway, where the people on the other side can still see how to get out of their driveway? And like I said, we're downhill from them, and then the people next door from us are even more downhill, and they have trouble with their property already flooding. So would that bother that? And my husband wanted to say something also.
Yes, ma'am. If you would state your name, sir.
I live at 290 Old Lovers Lane. There might be Earl on the papers that y'all sent out.
Earl, okay. Yes, sir.
My question is for the commissioners, have any of y'all been down this road and looked at it, or have y'all just looked at the paper that's in front of you?
I've been down the road, sir.
Okay, that's just one.
So,
My next question is for the CMC property. Would y'all want this on y'all's property besides y'all? I don't think you would.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, thank y'all.
Do we have anyone else online that wishes to speak with a question or a comment in opposition? We've got everyone covered.
Chair Runner, would it be appropriate for me to address some of the questions and some of the comments very briefly?
Yes, sir, it would. Please.
I know I've read your agenda, so I know you have a lot of matters, and I will really try not to belabor the point. but I think I will point my comments mainly to what I heard Ms. Spinks say, because I think she tried to wrap up and summarize what we heard from other people. I would just simply say that single family use, I don't believe changes the character of a single family development. You heard some mention there of some multifamily behind some of these houses that has nothing to do with us. But in the staff report is the current zoning map, and there are actually RM2 properties on Old Lovers Lane. So, but be that as it may, we are not asking for multifamily. And I think the biggest, most repeated complaint that I heard was really, we don't like what they could maybe do, therefore we object to what they want to do. The one neighbor talked about flume densities up to 13 units an acre. A common refrain there was, well, what keeps them coming back and doing something different? And I would tell you what keeps that from happening is the development plan conditions they have agreed to that are binding if this passes. And that limits it at 3 single-family residential lots. It leaves it at 3 homes, 2 of which is under the same roof as a twin home. So that's the answer to the question legally. I guess practically, well, some of the neighbors have concern about the development potential of the property in the back, which might help explain why they've gone with this development plan, why they've decided to go with 3 units instead of 6 or 8 or 10. And frankly, I don't think a developer really or a property owner should be taken to task for changing a plan and coming back with one that's much more modest, much less dense, unquestionably more compatible with what's there. I mean, when you compare what some of the people said they thought they were going to do versus what they are asking. The last thing I want to address the concerns about property values or who's going to be living in houses. I think the commissioners, you all know that those are not addressed in the zoning ordinance for a reason. Those are not considerations in the zoning ordinance for a reason due to a number of state and federal laws concerning housing. Be that as it may, we are looking at 3 single-family units on a 1.8 acre property on a property that has a flume designation of townhouses, and it is a townhouse that they are asking essentially to build here as a twin home. So I think anything more would just belabor the point. As always, I appreciate the attention of the commissioners.
Mr. Davenport, this is Hamp Moore. If you would please ask your client to agree to the modification of development plan condition 6, 50% to 20%.
Correct. And I'll have Chair Runner recognize Mr. Casey Simpson, who is now on my television screen, and I'll let her swear him in.
Yes, sir. If you'd state your name and address.
Casey Simpson, 1428 Melrose Street.
And you swear to tell the truth, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Mr. Simpson, as a representative of CMC Properties, do you agree to the revision of the applicable development plan condition by lowering the allowable vinyl exterior finish from 50% to 20%? I need you to say yes.
Yes, sir.
Does that work, Mr. Moore?
That works fine. Thank you.
Commissioners, do you all have any comments or questions before I call for a motion? Nothing, then I will ask for a motion, please.
Make the motion to approve the proposed zoning map amendment together with and condition upon the general development plan, docket number 2020-38Z County, based upon the testimony and the documents presented in this public hearing. Proposed zoning map amendment is consistent with the adopted Focus 2030 comprehensive plan as demonstrated by its compliance with objectives and action items presented in the staff report. Therefore, the proposed zoning map amendment is in agreement with the adopted comprehensive plan. Further, I request this motion includes a summary of evidence and testimony presented to witness this public hearing.
Thank you, sir. We need a second.
Second.
Thank you, ma'am. We'll have a roll call.
Commissioner Warren,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Balance,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Blackburn,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Clark,
No, ma'am. We have listened to the neighbors tonight, and there's certainly some safety concerns, certainly a change in the characteristics of the neighborhood. There's certainly a question about compatibility. And I just want the neighbors to know that we are listening to their concerns, and my vote is no.
Commissioner Gay,
Staying due to conflict.
Commissioner Ritchie,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Starks,
No.
Commissioner Unseld,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Vitale,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Volkert,
Yes, ma'am.
Chair Runner.
Yes, ma'am. The motion carried with opposition. Our recommendation will be for approval. Thank you all.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda, docket number 2020-02 T County, New Singular Wireless PCS LLC, and Emil and Teresa Hardcastle have filed an application for approval of a wireless communication tower, which is a cell tower, located on a portion of attractive land contained property on Old Greenhill Road. The future address will be 3979 Old Greenhill Road, and the property is zoned agriculture. We'll have the staff report.
Thank you, Chair Runner. I'm going to try to, I'm not sure what I did, but I guess I made it small again. Jessica, do you know what I did?
If you'll let me control this real quick.
Okay, yeah, you go ahead.
I can fix it. Give me just a second.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
You should be able to use the handle. Well, it went too far. There you go. You should be able to use the down arrow now.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so we had a pre-application conference on September 1st for this little portion of property you see here outlined in yellow. This is for a cell tower, the proposed height of which is 199 feet. That property is zoned agriculture. Its current use is also agriculture. As you can see in the area, it's primarily agriculture and single-family uses. The proposed land use of this would be commercial. And the future land use map is designated as low-density residential. I will leave this up. We can look at this as we go along if need be, but first page, your staff report there, you see the compliance with the comprehensive plan. Property is designated as low-density residential on the flume, and a zoning map amendment was not required for this application. This body should determine if the proposed tower complies with the goals and objectives outlined in the comprehensive plan regarding telecommunications facilities. Going on to the next page, you've got the flume and the Focus 2030 category review. We have two items listed there that are up for your determination. Those are CF9 and CF9-1. The Planning Commission should determine if the proposed tower will advance telecommunications and wireless infrastructure in Warren County, and if it complies with those two items. Under the site characteristics review, you see the layout, lot sizes, and setbacks. I'll go ahead and read that since this is a cell tower and we don't see these too terribly often, but the proposed telecommunications tower must be located at least 1,000 feet from a residential district or use. The tower must also be set back from the property line a minimum of 60% of the overall height of the tower. The proposed tower is 199 feet in height, requiring a 119.4 foot setback from the property line. The proposed tower meets the setback requirements outlined above. Just look at the site design and compatibility review. The surrounding density is mainly agricultural, and there are several rural density residential properties in the vicinity located along Old Greenhill Road and Coleman Lane. The surrounding architectural features, home sizes in the area range from 1 to 1.5 stories. Though there are some 2-story agricultural buildings located in the vicinity. And landscaping and screen, the proposed development will adhere to the landscaping requirements of the zoning ordinance. Going down here to the zoning ordinance review, I'm going to hit on these, just these items here that we've got called out. Going down to the minimum location standards there, that has the setback required, which I alluded to earlier. I'll go ahead and read what those setbacks are. Again, the minimum setback that would have to be is 119.4 feet from all property lines. You see there the northern property lines, the setbacks are 1,103 feet 11 inches and 1,026 feet and 6 inches. Southern property line 222 feet and 1 inch. Eastern property line 269 feet and 8 inches. And the western property line 998 feet and 10 inches, which meets the required setbacks. Letter B there, all towers must be set back from any residential district or use, a minimum of 1,000 feet. The tower will be 1,170 feet away from the nearest residential structure and 1,265.5 feet away from the nearest residential use. Accessory facilities, there are a couple accessory structures proposed for the site. These include a walk-in cabinet and diesel generator. The proposed accessory structures meet the setbacks required in the agriculture zoning district. I'm now at the top of page 4 of your staff report if you're following along. The proposed tower is not proposed to be lit, which letter E addresses, artificially lit. Letter F, the proposed location of the telecommunications tower site does not include any of those facilities mentioned, which would include offices, long-term vehicle storage, et cetera. They're listed there. We can go over them if you'd like. Letter G, that the use will be consistent with applicable federal and state regulations and shall have secured and submitted copies of compliance with these regulations. Those are provided. An application for, letter H, application for approval for a new telecommunications tower shall include all items required by a uniform application by the Kentucky Revised Statutes. That requirement has been met. Number 2 addresses colors. The applicant provided the statement on page 3 that they paint the uniform application that they agree to paint the tower white or light gray. And number 3, the applicant submitted a statement as part of their application stating that there are no reasonably available opportunities to co-locate the applicant's antennas on an existing structure, and that no other suitable or available co-location sites were found to be located in the vicinity. A report detailing the site selection process, including documentation as to why co-location is not possible, is outlined in Exhibit N. The applicants have also indicated their intent to allow future opportunity for co-location on the proposed tower, as shown on sheet C3. So this tower meets the review criteria for site design and meets the minimum requirements of the zoning ordinance. Go back to page 1. We're just got a couple points to consider. The one I just alluded to, but also the proposed telecommunications tower complies with the majority of the site characteristics review criteria and meets the minimum requirements in the zoning ordinance. So that is all I have for the staff report. I'm happy to answer any questions, and I know that the applicant is also here, and I'm sure would also be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, ma'am. Commissioners, do you have any questions for the applicant? No questions, and we'll hear from the applicant, please.
Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes, sir. Mr. Price.
Good deal. For the recorded record, my name is David Pike. I'm a principal counsel with Pike Legal Group PLLC, P.O. Box 369, Shepherdsville, Kentucky. And it's a pleasure to, well, kind of appear before you again this evening. We appreciate the Commission's willingness to kind of work around COVID-19 restrictions and to try to keep the public's business moving forward. Chairman Runner, I've got a couple of introductory comments, but we can kind of skin this cat, to use a Southern euphemism, one of 2 ways. As you would expect for a matter of this importance to our customers and also to my client, I have a full PowerPoint presentation prepared that I can do. On the other hand, that's a presentation which this commission has largely seen previously, although there are, as I understand it, there are some new members of the commission. In the event that there is not opposition to this site, and if the commission is disposed to it, I can simply do a few introductory comments and can forego that presentation in deference to the large number of additional cases that you have. So I guess I kind of bounce this back to you. Would it be possible for the chair to inquire if there's opposition to the site and to inquire of the commission whether they wanted to hear my full presentation?
Thank you, sir. We will do that. Do we have any opposition to this request? No opposition? Commissioners, would you want the abbreviated version tonight?
Please.
We have, yes, I think the abbreviated version, and we have no opposition. So thank you, sir.
Very good. I'll make it quick then. And also for the record, I'll indicate that even though I'm a lawyer, I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but. Just a couple of things that I think are worth highlighting. First, I want to thank your zoning staff for their normal, extremely thorough review. And of course, we're gratified at their professional finding that this meets all the requirements of your local regulations. Naturally, cell towers are administered under a completely different federal regulatory standard and state regulatory standard from the other types of cases that you review on an ongoing basis, and you have able legal counsel to discuss with you the limitations associated with those. Having said that, I'll note that we've labored mightily to make sure that we meet your setback requirements, which when it comes to the 1,000 feet to the nearest residential use or structure is the most stringent restriction of its type anywhere in the Commonwealth of Kentucky that I'm familiar with. I would also like to indicate that we're prepared to accept all of the stipulations that are listed in the staff report with one minor correction. And that is, it indicates here that we will paint the tower either gray or white. We want to have the option of deploying it as gray instead of having to paint it gray. That, of course, means that we don't have ongoing paint requirements, and also we don't end up with paint flaking and the maintenance issues associated with that. So if the commission's good with a change indicating that we will deploy it or paint it as gray, that would be helpful to us, and I think is a more accurate representation of what we were hoping to impart in our application materials. If there are any questions, I'll be more than glad to try to answer them. We will be deploying the latest and best technology in the world at this site. This is a chronically underserved area, and this is a good opportunity for us to begin to redress that lack of service.
Thank you, Mr. Pike.
Is that sufficiently brief, Chairman?
Yes, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Commissioners, do you have any questions for Mr. Pike?
Will there be multiple companies on this tower or just one individual company?
As you can see from the package of materials that we provided to you, this tower is pre-engineered to accommodate a minimum of 4 wireless communications companies. And in fact, we have space reserved in the enclosure for their individual radio equipment and other supporting equipment at ground level. I would indicate that right now, our client is the only one, but we of course have master lease agreements setting the terms for deployment with all other FCC license holders in that area. Typically, once a tower like this is constructed, they beat a path to our door for co-location, just as we do often with their towers.
Any other questions? Nothing else? Then I'll ask for a motion, please.
Make a motion to approve the proposed telecommunications tower application docket number 2022 T County based upon the testimony document presented in this public hearing. The proposed zoning map amendment is consistent with the adopted Focus 2030 comprehensive plan as demonstrated by its compliance with objectives and actions presented in the staff report. Therefore, the proposed zoning map amendment is in agreement with the adopted comprehensive plan. Further request of this motion include a summary of evidence and testimony presented by the witnesses at this public hearing.
Thank you, sir. We need a second.
Second.
Thank you, ma'am.
Madam Chairman, may I interject? Can we have the relief on the painting requirement that I mentioned? I'm not sure that was included in the motion.
Mr. Moore.
David, as long as the tower is gray, it matters not whether it's painted or deployed.
In that case, I will do an eloquent job of saying no more, Pamp.
Thank you. We have a motion and it's been seconded.
Commissioner Day,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Ritchie,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Starks,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Unseld,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Vitale,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Volkert,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Warren,
Ma'am.
Commissioner Balance,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Blackburn,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Clark,
Yes.
Chair Runner.
Yes, ma'am. The motion carried. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure dealing with professionals.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next item on the agenda, 2020-30Z County. Warren County School District Finance Corporation Incorporated has filed an application to rezone a portion of a tract of land containing approximately 0.95 acre located at 2100 Elrod Road from planned unit development with a general development plan to public with a general development plan. And we'll have the staff report.
Thank you, Chair Runner. I think we're having some issues with the mouse. Oh, it looks like I'm good to go here. I think I've got control now. So let me swap over to the correct slides here. Bear with me. All righty. So,
Hey, Rachel, let me just ask a question before you start. So is this just kind of a cleanup?
Commissioner Volkert, kind of. The existing PUD zoning would not permit the construction of the proposed fire station and safe room.
Okay. Gotcha.
I guess just I'll jump to the property history in the middle of page 1 of your staff report. The binding elements were amended most recently in 2007 specifically to allow the school to be constructed within the development. And so today a development plan amendment would require 75% of the owners involved with the development plan, which would be hundreds of property owners. And so for that reason, the application before you this evening is just a simple rezoning request that would not have to involve hundreds of people signing the application. Right. So the proposal is a rezoning application for public. The future land use map designation is also institutional and governmental. So the proposed zone is consistent with the future land use designation. Moving on here, let me jump to the site plan that was submitted, and I'm going to jump on to the site characteristics review. This is the proposed site plan. On transportation infrastructure, we've noted that the proposed development has frontage on 2 streets, Elrod Road, which is county maintained urban major collector with 60 feet of right of way and pavement width that varies. And the proposed lot also has frontage on Beaumont Drive, which is a county maintained roadway with 50 feet of right of way and 24 feet of pavement width. Under fire protection, this property is served by the Woodburn Volunteer Fire Department, and the intended use, as it turns out, is for a new fire station for the Woodburn Volunteer Fire Department and also a safe room. Moving on to site design and compatibility, under surrounding land uses, I'll jump back to the land use map. You can see that the surrounding area is a mix of single-family residential, agricultural, and public uses. Under surrounding architectural features, we've noted that there are a mixture of structures ranging in height from 1 to 2 stories. Moving down, I'll go through the development plan conditions. There were 7 submitted with this application. Number 1, vehicular access to the property shall be limited to 1 access point from Beaumont Drive and 1 from Elrod Road. 2, no structure shall exceed 35 feet in height exclusive of flagpoles. No building on the property shall exceed 13,000 square feet in size. 3, all service utility lines shall be located underground. 4, the exterior building materials of all structures shall consist of brick, stone, modern masonry, or metal panels. Such exterior shall be approved by the Warren County School District Finance Corporation before construction can begin. Plain face block shall be prohibited as a visible finished material. 5, on-site lighting shall be directed downward and inward to minimize light trespass onto adjacent properties. 6, signage shall be limited to wall signage and monument style signage not exceeding 6 feet in height and not exceeding 24 square feet per sign face. No LED signage shall be allowed. And last, sinkholes detected on the property prior to or during construction will be repaired or protected with a sinkhole structure using methods by the Warren County Public Works Department, depending upon whether such sinkholes are in a proposed drainage area. Next, Focus 2030 category review. Staff evaluated 11 items and found 5 of those items to be in compliance. 6 are up to the determination of the Planning Commission, the first of those being LU 1.1.3. The Planning Commission should determine if the proposal is compatible with the area. LU2, the Planning Commission should determine if the proposal is a high-quality development that includes design standards tailored to preserve or enhance the character of the area. Next, HN1 and HN1.3. The Planning Commission should determine if the proposal is a compatible infill project, if it is suitable for the area, if it will maintain or improve the existing character and pattern of development within the area, and if it will strengthen nearby neighborhoods. And last, HN 1.2, the Planning Commission should determine if the proposed infill development is compatible with the surrounding area. Last in the staff summary, just worth noting here is that the proposed station would close a gap in the 5-mile service area for the Woodburn Volunteer Fire Department, which should result in lower insurance rates for properties within the existing gap. And both the Warren County Public Schools and the Woodburn Volunteer Fire Department are public entities, and certain public entities are required to go through the zone change and public hearing process to consider board advice and public input, but are technically exempt from local ordinances. However, after hearing from public concerns, the fire department and public schools changed the location of the proposed facility as was originally proposed. It never made it to the public hearing, but they did change the location based on prior feedback from the public. So with that, I'll wrap up with the points to consider on page 1. The proposal is consistent with the future land use map. The proposed development complies with the majority of the review criteria that we evaluated with the proposal and does meet the minimum requirements in the zoning ordinance, and compatibility should be determined by the Planning Commission. That is all I have for the staff report. One thing I forgot to jump ahead. There's a couple more slides here with some proposed elevations. Let me see if I can get this to, there should be a fit to this window somehow. I don't know.
Read though, where you were just on.
Let's see. Whoops. Is there not a, I'm so sorry.
Sorry, the mouse died when I was trying to make it smaller. I'm sorry.
Jessica, if you just tell me what to do, I can zoom out. I feel like I'm missing where this.
I got it. I think it's.
Oh.
Sorry, hold on. We'll do it that way for right now until I can.
Okay. That's just fine. So I'll just leave these elevations up here just for your reference. And if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer those at this time.
Thank you, Ms. Hurd. Commissioners, questions? No questions? Then we'll hear from the applicant. Thank you,
Yes,
Mr.
ma'am.
Yes.
Madam Chair, this is Tad Pardue. I represent the applicant, Warren County School District Finance Corporation. It's good to see you. It's good to see all the commissioners this evening. I do want to introduce some folks that are with me. I have Chris McIntyre, who's on the call. He's the Chief Financial Officer of the Warren County Public Schools. I also have Bob Skipper and Jack Wright, both of whom serve on the board of the Woodburn Volunteer Fire Department. They are on the call as well. We had David Graham, another board member, earlier, but he unfortunately had to jump off to get on another call. As usual, Ms. Hurt did a pretty good job of sort of giving you the who, what, when, and where as far as this proposal. I'll just make a couple of comments, and unless there's opposition that I need to address, we'll try not to be too repetitive. What you have before you that's proposed is really sort of the culmination of some discussions that started with the Woodburn Volunteer Fire Department about 4 or 5 years ago. As Rachel mentioned, this is a pocket of the county that has portions of which that are actually outside of 5 miles of any responding fire station. This area of the county is obviously part of the Woodburn Volunteer Fire Department service area. You may be familiar with the 2 existing Woodburn Volunteer Fire Department facilities. There's one in Rich Pond on Nashville Road, and then there's the one that's out in Woodburn. What you have before you is a small station. It'll be 2 or 3 bays holding 2 to 3, up to 2 to 3 fire trucks. You have a safe room facility, which is actually being funded partially by a grant grant program that's administered through FEMA. Ironically, there was an article in the Daily News, I believe yesterday, some of you may have seen it, about a very similar situation out in Plano involving a safe room that's being funded partially through the same grant program. We believe that this proposed development will be an asset to this area, in particular from a fire protection standpoint and a general safety standpoint. There is an agreement and will be an agreement between the Woodburn Volunteer Fire Department, the county, and the county school district to allow use and access to the safe room by the students and the kids at the elementary school, at Jody Richard Elementary School, in the event of an emergency situation. Again, in terms of compliance with the flume and compatibility, obviously the existing use there of the property is already a public or governmental use. This will be a continuation of that. Aesthetically, I'll point you to the development plan condition that does indicate exterior design of the structure must be approved before construction by the school district. The idea there is compatibility. It's blending it with the neighborhood. And if you look at some of the elevations, the concepts that Rachel had up there a minute ago, you'll see that at least conceptually, the idea is to and architecturally build a structure that really blends in and looks similar to the elementary school, and it fits in with the subdivision and the residential areas around it. So again, we believe it's fully in compliance with the flume, that it's as it exists, as is compatible. But what we've done with our development plan conditions is to try to take additional steps to make it even more compatible, such that it blends in with not only the school but the neighborhood around it. So we appreciate, as always, the commission's consideration. If anyone has any questions beyond what I've mentioned, I'll be glad to take those up. And again, I have folks from the school district and the volunteer fire department with me as well. So thank you for your time. Again, we appreciate the commission's consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Pardue. Commissioners, do you have any questions?
Yes, Mr. Pardue, can you walk us through where exactly the trucks will come out to what road?
All right.
And where do the cars line up to take the kids to school and the buses? Can you kind of show us that design?
Right. Mr. McIntyre, you correct me if I'm wrong, but the car rider loop starts looking at the exhibit in front of us. It actually, that's the bus loop. The car rider loop you can't see on the exhibit, is that right? It's up sort of top right of the area depicted on the exhibit.
Yes, I'm sorry, this is Chris McIntyre, 147 Grand Teton Way. I swear to tell the truth, nothing but the truth.
You're just rolling right along. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. The car rider line and pickup drop-off is on the more eastern side of the property. It exits a secondary exit on through Bellhaven onto Elrod Road.
And the access that you see in the area depicted on the exhibit, Chris, that's the bus entrance and bus exit. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, that is correct.
And Commissioner Clark, I think to answer your other question, as you can see in the elevations and the concepts, I would say most likely, given where the garage bays of the fire station portion of the structure are located, you're probably going to see the trucks entering onto and exiting off of Elrod Road to get to the structure.
Elrod Road's going to be the main access.
Yes, ma'am. Because if you view the structure as it's conceptually designed, those I guess what you would really consider to be the front of the fire station structure will be that which is facing Elrod Road. So your 2 or 3 bays containing the fire trucks will be facing Elrod Road. So it would seem as though it's probably most conducive for those trucks to be entering into and out of the property from Elrod Road.
And they don't foresee, the fire department doesn't foresee traffic as being a digestive problem?
Well, the Woodburn Volunteer Fire Department is already serving this area of the county. So to the extent there is a call either generated from this area or generated from another area which would call for one of their fire trucks to travel through this area of the county, there's really no difference, I guess, in the fire department's view of what traffic it may encounter, whether its station is here or its station remains in their existing locations, because they're still serving the same area regardless of whether this facility is there.
I know I've gotten caught in traffic out there and it's horrible in the mornings. I was just curious how they felt.
Well, it's not about the traffic being horrible, but if there's a fire, they're closer to the residents and the school.
That's correct. And that's a good point, Commissioner Warren. And again, that goes back to the genesis of this finding this location or a location near it, and that is that you do have areas in this part of the county that
underserved,
that are underserved and are outside of honestly 5 miles of either of the other 2 Woodburn fire locations.
Are there any other questions before I see if we have opposition, commissioners?
I would just like to thank Mr. Wright and Mr. Skipper for their service to the Woodburn Fire Department.
Absolutely.
Yes, thank you.
That's
Chair Runner, if I may quickly, we do have a question on the chat, and it might be more, I don't know, Tad or Chris McIntyre maybe could answer this, is why would this portion of the land be considered for the fire station when it's currently used as a playground or soccer field? There is unused land on the opposite side of the school if absolutely necessary that this must be developed in this area.
I'll address that, and Chris, if there's anything you want to add after I do, feel free. But Rachel mentioned this earlier. Originally, the site was actually proposed, looking at the exhibit that's before you, in the area to the north of that, you'll see an open space. I think somebody's moving the mouse over that now. And you know, we heard from some neighbors, and there were some issues there as far as the fire vehicles and trucks getting in and out. And honestly, when we took a second look at it, the location that's being proposed now, frankly, was not only preferred by the fire department, but was preferred by the school as well, and the school district. And that is a playground, but there is not, to my knowledge, any playground equipment there per se. It is, I think, a soccer field, and from the school district's end, they thought it would be very easy just to move that area, the soccer field, to the north, where the the site was previously proposed. That's is my understanding of what went into determining the location. And again, you have an intersection there, so you have access points on both streets that are easy to get to.
One more thing I'll add to that, Mr. Perdue, is that on the other side of the property, I believe this question warrants, is our geothermal field, which we would not be able to dedicate an appropriate acreage to accommodate the fire department over there due to that geothermal field that sits under that green space.
I'd also like to add that if the proposed building was put on the other end, it would greatly affect the car rider line coming in and going out. And that would be, I would think, a lot more of a danger interruption of flow than where the few buses would be entering the property.
I would agree with Commissioner Ritchie's comment on that as well.
Then that would put you in the area where the curve is, right?
It'd be, you go around the curve up north a little bit on the left, more towards the entrance of Bellhaven's, where I'm perceiving the comment being directed.
And that car rider line comes in and out of that Bellhaven entrance, doesn't it?
That's correct.
I would like to also add that in the event of a run that the fire department had to make, the location where it's being proposed now makes it more accessible to getting out to the road, more so than if it was located in the other area. We had, say this occurred during the time school was letting out, it would create a problem probably for the fire department getting out to make the run. Just want to put that out.
Have anything else from the commissioners? We'll see. Do we have anyone waiting online with a question or opposition? No opposition?
Yes, I have opposition.
Yes, ma'am. If you'd state your name and address for us, please.
Tennille Lewis, 1985 Silver Charm Circle.
And you swear to tell the truth?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. You can state your opposition or ask a question.
Okay, I have several points here. I want to start with I was the one who submitted the question on the chat about the location. If it is absolutely necessary that this must be built in this area, which I do not believe that many of the neighbors in this area are in agreement for that why would not be built on the other side of the school that's currently not being used. I've heard that conversation. I do not see how that would impact the car rider line. I actually have a child that goes to Jody Richard, so I'm very aware of this. I live adjacent to the property. This fire station would be directly across from my house. I sit at the corner of Beaumont. There's actually a four-way stop that's over there on Elrod Road, so the traffic flow is actually much easier. And that car rider line, there is never congestion that goes out to the Bellhaven entrance. I want to assure you of that. Also, where the proposed location is, there is not a four-way stop. There already is a traffic issue within that area. We have many cars that speed up and down this section of Elrod Road. So let's just add in volunteer fire department members who are speeding in and out of this already very dangerous area that doesn't have a four-way stop at all on this side of Elrod Road. So that's kind of, I heard the conversation around why that's not an ideal location. I still don't understand the point of that. And I feel like you misspoke on what is actually in that area. There are swing sets in that area. There is a gaga ball pit, and it is a full soccer field. There are children that use that area every single day, especially now in this climate of COVID, where the kids have to be so spread out. They use every bit of that area on the Jody Richards property because the classrooms cannot mix. Children use that area every day. After school is over, the recreational teams use that soccer field as practice. So it is used all day. There's also volleyball nets on there as well. So I do want that to be noted. Additionally, I hear the argument on the safe room. I don't see the benefit of the safe room. I feel like that's just a way to get approval to have the fire station on the school grounds. I will tell you, my daughter goes to that. That is quite a bit of a walk from the school. If there is an active shooter, I do not see how you are going to get hundreds of kids to a safe room that is, I would like someone to count the steps from the school, especially my daughter who is at the other end of the school. There's no way that safe room is effectively going to be used. And as far as complimenting the neighborhood, I will tell you that no one is in agreement with that. I heard the argument and I was in the conversations before on the other neighbors. I have the same concern. I am directly across from a fire station. When I purchased this property, I was purchasing property next to an elementary school with no intent of something being built right there because it was used by a school. I feel like that's very misleading to the people that have invested in properties. I've heard the conversations on the other items in the document that we don't talk about property home values here, but I would like for you to take that in consideration if this was your property, of how that would greatly impact your neighborhood, the look of your neighborhood, and the property value. And someone on here mentioned that their address, they live in the Summit. There's lots of open land out on Dillard Road. So I would like to ask if you would like to be facing a fire station out on Dillard Road where there actually is a lot more available land out there. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Do we have anyone else?
Yes, ma'am. This is Scott Hughes, 2155 Elrod Road. And yes, I swear to tell the truth.
Thank you, sir.
First, I'd like to ask Mr. The gentleman was a Skipper and Wyatt on the fire department. What area of this, what in this area is the zone that we're missing that's protection, that's over 5 miles from the fire department? That couldn't be better utilized if we were putting this fire station at the end of Neil Howe Road and Three Springs Road, where it wouldn't impact nearly as many neighbors from the outgoing fire calls due to the sirens, and actually just use and ease of getting around, because that road would serve a better thoroughfare for the entire operation. That's my first question.
Honestly, a lot of it's the availability of the property. That property is not available to us or at a price that we can afford.
Mr. Skipper, do you care? I'm sorry to interrupt you, but Chair Runner needs to swear you in and have you say your name and address.
I apologize. Bob Skipper. Yeah, Bob Skipper, 920 Woodburn Down Springs Road. I do swear to tell the truth. I am chief of the department.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am. We do have, we have looked at several areas. This area served a dual purpose. There is not enough space in Jody Richards to house all of the children in the event of a storm situation. There's too much glass in the building. So in exchange for starting the grant process for building a safe room for a storm shelter, they agreed to give us a small piece of property for which we could on which we could locate a fire station. That station would be centrally enough located so we could cover all of our district and some of the neighboring districts within 5 miles of a station. Those properties that are outside that 5 mile boundary are rated as a class 10, which is the worst rating possible. Those within 5 miles will now, after the first of the year, be rated a class 5, which is a tremendous savings on their homeowners insurance. But the biggest thing is economics. The properties that we looked at on Neil Howe and others, it was too expensive. The department could not afford to buy the property and put up a station.
Your comments on fire protection class are partially true. Some carriers don't even mind protection class any longer, so it doesn't matter if it's class 5 or 7, doesn't really matter from their perspective. Secondly, when it comes to the fire station, do you have, is this fire station going to be taking EMS calls?
EMS calls are normally handled by our EMTs operating out of their private vehicles. We normally do not run a truck from the station on EMS calls.
Okay, so how many average calls are you running from your station? And is this in supplement to the station on Nashville Road, or is this in an auxiliary building that'll be an addition?
We operate as one department, so we will have 3 stations. Probably on an average, we're looking at maybe 30 runs a year coming of trucks actually rolling from that station. These trucks would primarily roll in the instance of an actual fire alarm, or an injury accident. Those are the most common calls that the trucks would actually roll on.
And you already have changed the ISO protection class at this point. You already gotten approval from that, or are you seeking approval to change your fire protection class?
We have approval. It begins on January 1st. We go from a class 6 to a class 5.
Thank you. My only opposition to this, I don't have a problem with fire stations. Clearly, I work for an insurance company. I understand the dynamics of that. I don't think it's a problem from where, from an overall spectrum, but I do think that the calls coming out of there do become disruptive to the neighbors in this neighborhood. And you could find a place that has less density, meaning that the call that's running east and west may not bother everybody, but now every call that goes out of those 30 calls, everybody's going to hear the sirens. Clearly, if it's not there, and if it was further away, you wouldn't hear the sirens. Outside of that, I have no problems with this. I recognize, I think that you can't run a call without having the sirens on. From an insurance perspective, I think you have to do that. Is that correct?
If we're running an emergency call with the lights on, then we have to run the sirens as well. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Do we have anyone else?
May I ask an additional question?
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm not really sure who to direct this to, but the original proposal that was behind the Bellhaven homes, like where the mouse currently is. So that was withdrawn, I guess, heavily influenced by the complaints of the neighborhood there. So I guess I'm having a hard time understanding that. So is the perception of those who live in Bellhaven more important than those who live in Ivan Downs or Hidden River? I'm just trying to understand if it was withdrawn there due to issues like with the neighborhood, of why that would not also be an issue in this location as well.
I can speak to that if I could. It originally, as it was proposed, the location would have involved dedication of a portion of that bus loop as a county road. Quite frankly, for reasons unknown to me, this site on the corner was never really considered until we started looking at that access issue and thinking about buses getting in and out. And once we came up with a few concepts on this corner lot, it became obvious to both the fire department and the school that, frankly, that's the better location. There were some concerns voiced by the neighbors, but I think the primary driver to the decision to move the location was eliminating that issue of that small portion of the bus access that we would no longer need if we moved the location out to the corner of Beaumont and Elrod. A couple of other responses to some of the questions. Mr. Skipper, he hit on one, and that is the number of calls. 30 calls a year is about, equates to about 2 to 3 calls a month. And again, by and large, these are calls probably in this area of the county that are, where you would already have an issue of fire trucks driving at least, in the vicinity of Elrod Road, if not on the road. This is not a station that is going to be continuously staffed. It's a volunteer fire department. So the only times on a regular basis there would be anyone there, either firefighters or administrative staff, will be during a call. So again, we're talking about somewhere around 30 per year. And then going back to, there were still questions about the location. I was not aware that I guess the area right next to the entrance to Bellhaven contained the geothermal field for the school. Mr. McIntyre mentioned that. If that's the case, they can't, the school district cannot permit any development on top of that geothermal field. And to the extent there's some acreage or land there that doesn't encompass the geothermal field, I think I heard Mr. McIntyre say it just wouldn't have been enough area or acreage to accommodate the fire department and the safe room. And last comment I'll make in terms of a question or opposition, the safe room, and I think Mr. Skipper may have hit on this as well, but the safe room, the thought in mind there is more of in terms of a storm event or a tornado warning. There is a lot of glass in that school as it's constructed. There isn't enough room, frankly, to accommodate that many students in the event of an incident like that or an emergency like that. So that was what was being focused on more in terms of the safe room and allowing the school to access the safe room than was something like an active shooter situation.
Can I ask, or can I clarify one piece of that? My comment on the safe room is, and maybe I misspoke just jumping to the active shooter. I will tell you, as a parent of a child there, I would not give my child permission if there was a tornado warning to walk out of the school across a field that is not a close distance to the school. If parents, I would hope that parents would have to give permission for that. And I would tell you that I would not give my child permission to walk to that safe room. I purely see this as the tie into the safe room as to get this fire station on the school property.
Thank you, ma'am. Do we have anyone else with a question before I call for a motion?
Yes, Stephen Lewis, and I do swear to tell the truth.
What?
1985 Silver Farm Circle.
I'm sorry.
I believe there's county 1985 Silver Charm Circle.
Thank you, sir.
All right. I believe there's county purchased land off Dillard Road where there's plans to build an elementary school here in the near future. It just makes sense to me that that's where, if we're going to plan on building a fire station for Woodburn, that would be a good spot for it, considering it's 2.2 miles from the current proposal. Has there been any consideration for that?
Don't believe so.
And why not?
I don't believe that location will get us the full coverage that we need to get everything within 5 miles of a station. It's too close to our station 2 already.
Okay.
Hey, Ham, can I ask a question real quick? I mean, the fire department really doesn't really need our permission to do this, correct?
Correct. Warren Fiscal Court is not subject to the jurisdiction of the Planning Commission, and so their location of a volunteer fire department station would not need Planning Commission approval.
Correct. So they're really here tonight, really just as a courtesy to everybody.
I believe so.
Commissioner Volkert, and I'm glad you mentioned that. And I think those of you all been on the commission long enough will have probably seen that, generally speaking, especially I can speak for the county schools. They're in the same boat as far as applicability of the zoning ordinance, but you will commonly see them being a good member of the community coming before you all if there's an issue of a rezone or something of that nature.
No, I very much appreciate y'all coming tonight, but I think, I think the thing that everybody on the call needs to understand is at the end of the day, if the fire department decides that's where they want to go, then really it can't be stopped.
But not just stopped, Christian. It's for the benefit of the community.
Absolutely. No, absolutely, Dean. I agree 100%.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you all for your comments. Anything else before I ask for motion? Nothing? Then I will call for motion, please.
Make the motion to approve the proposed zoning map amendment together with and conditioned upon the general development plan docket number 2023Z County, based upon the testimony and documents presented as public hearing. Proposed zoning map amendment is consistent with the adopted Focus 2030 comprehensive plan as demonstrated by its compliance with the objective items and actions presented in the staff report. Therefore, the proposed zoning map amendment is in agreement with the adopted comprehensive plan. Further request that this motion include a summary of evidence and testimony presented by witnesses to public hearing.
Thank you.
Second.
We have a second. We have a second. Thank you, ma'am.
Commissioner Warren,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Balance,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Blackburn,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Clark,
Yes.
Commissioner Gay,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Ritchie,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Starks,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Unseld,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Vitale,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Vogert,
Yes, ma'am.
Chair Runner.
Yes, ma'am. The motion carried. Thank you all.
Thank you all for your time this evening.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda, docket number 2020-44Z County, James and Gina Rd have filed an application to rezone a portion of a tract of land containing approximately 1.324 acres located at 0 Smith's Grove-Scottsville Rd from agriculture to RE, which is residential estate, with a general development plan. And we will have the staff report.
Thank you, Chair Runner.
Thank you, ma'am.
We had a pre-application conference on June 2nd for the property you see outlined there in yellow. I will note a typo on the first page of your staff report. This public hearing date is not October 15th, so we've actually got a couple like that, so apologize that we did not catch that in our staff review, but you all know what day it is. So all that matters is that we're here. The applicants are requesting this zone change tonight in order to subdivide a portion of the property from a larger agricultural tract and create one single-family residential lot, which is what you see here. The remaining portion of the lot will be added to an adjacent agricultural tract. So much of the area is agricultural and single-family residential with some vacant tracts also in the area. Future land use map is agriculture. I'll kind of jump around here. I'm going to look at the compatibility with comprehensive plan. Because this proposal will result in the same number of lots that currently exist and will result in the enlargement of an agricultural tract, no flume amendment was required with this zone change. I'll note that with the size of this property, the proposed density would be 0.76 dwelling units per acre. Under zoning history, agriculture is the original zoning for the property, and this body actually recommended approval of an identical application on July 16th of this year, but the applicants withdrew the application before final action by the fiscal court. So if, I guess for the sake of it, I don't believe we had not all the same commissioners at that time, so I may touch on a couple of things that we had touched on previously, but anyway, we can, if y'all have any additional questions, we can go over those. But just for posterity's sake, we'll try to at least hit on the main points. I will go ahead and skip over to page 2. And we have the layout, lot sizes, and setbacks. You see the attached preliminary development plan. Existing homes along the west side of Kentucky 101 are set back more than the 25-foot minimum front yard setback required by the zoning ordinance, some being set back at least 60 feet. Setbacks would adhere to the RE standards, except for an 80-foot front yard setback, which we'll look at in just a second. Property contains a soil type that's classified as farmland of statewide importance, and a soil type that's classified as somewhat limited regarding soil suitability for septic tank absorption fields. Site design and compatibility review the surrounding densities for the 29 properties fronting Kentucky 101 between the intersections of Glasgow Road and Dunn Moon Road / Moon Road range from 0 to 1.10 dwelling units per acre, with an average density of 0.24 dwelling units per acre and a median density of 0.09 dwelling units per acre. And again, this proposed density is 0.76 dwelling units per acre. Surrounding architectural features, the structures in the surrounding area are a mixture of 1 and 2 stories in height. Several of the existing residences in the area also have an attached garage or carport. Home sizes range from 1,187 square feet to 3,928 square feet, with 1,991 square feet being the median home size. Building materials, homes in the area are a mixture of brick and vinyl. There are also a couple wooden homes and a couple metal and wooden agricultural buildings nearby. The majority of the building foundations for the existing homes in the area are brick. Building orientation, the majority of residences along Kentucky 101 are oriented to face Kentucky 101. Going on to page 3, I'll go ahead and read those development plan conditions that have been proposed. Number 1, minimum home size shall be 1,800 square feet. Number 2, building materials for the primary residence will be vertical vinyl siding or cement board siding. Number 3, building foundation will be constructed of a brick or stone veneer. Number 4, home to be oriented toward Kentucky 101. Number 5, utilize existing driveway to be shared with the existing home. Number 6, any existing or found sinkholes within property will be identified and repaired prior to any development above said sinkhole. Number 7, the front setback for any new residence constructed on the property shall be at least 80 feet. And number 8, a septic permit from the Barren River District Health Department shall be obtained prior to issuance of a building permit. Below that, you'll see the Focus 2030 category review. Staff evaluated 13 items, 7 of which comply and 6 of which are to be determined. Those are LU 1013, if the proposal is compatible with the area. LU2, if the proposal is a high quality development that will protect the character of the area. NCR 24, this body should determine if the proposed development will preserve and enhance the agricultural landscape and scenic rural character along Smith's Grove-Scottsville Road, and if the proposed development is compatible with the area. NCR 241, this body should determine whether or not the proposed development will result in an increased amount of development pressure on the countryside. And HN21, HN4, if the proposed development is located in a suitable location and if it will enhance the array of housing options available in the area. Looking at the staff summary review, staff review summary, in order to create a single-family, residential lot for the construction of a new residence on this property. The remaining portion of the property will remain zoned ag and will be added to the adjacent tract at 5079 Smiths Grove, Scottsville Road. Because the proposal will not result in an increased number of lots, again, and will result in the enlargement of an agricultural tract, this was exempt from the flume. And again, just noting that this body recommended approval of an identical application on July 16th earlier this year. But that application was withdrawn before final action of fiscal court. Going back to page 1, we'll look at the points to consider. Again, just noting that exemption from flume compliance. Proposed development complies with the majority of the site characteristics review criteria and the majority of the review criteria for site design and meets the minimum requirements of the zoning ordinance. And compatibility of the proposed development should be determined by the Planning Commission. That is all I have for the staff report. I'm happy to answer any questions, and I believe the applicants are on the call as well.
Thank you, Ms. Ramsey. Commissioners, do you have any questions?
Monica, is that easement going to remain? If that's access to the other properties, that big easement's running across there?
Commissioner Clark, the applicants they plan to utilize the existing driveway, which would be shared with the existing home. So that is the intent, to keep that there.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions? Is there anything that the applicant would like to add? And I will ask, is there any opposition to this request? No opposition, but we do have the applicants present, is that correct?
Yes, the applicant is here.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I was muted.
That's quite all right. I just wanted to make sure you were present. There's no opposition. So I will go ahead, commissioners, if you don't have anything else, I'll just ask for a motion.
I make the motion to approve proposed zoning map amendment together with and condition upon the general development plan docket number 2020-44Z County. Based upon the testimony and documents presented in this public hearing, the proposed zoning map amendment is consistent with the adopted Focus 2030 comprehensive plan as demonstrated by its compliance with objective and action items presented in the staff report. Therefore, the proposed zoning map amendment is in agreement with the adopted comprehensive plan. Further, I request this motion include a summary of evidence and testimony presented by the witnesses at this public hearing.
Second.
Second.
Thank you. We have a second.
Commissioner Gay,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Ritchie,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Starks,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Unseld,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Vitale,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Volkert,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Warren,
Ma'am.
Commissioner Balance,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Blackburn,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Clark,
Yes.
Chair Runner.
Yes, ma'am. The motion carried. Our recommendation will be for approval. Thank you all. The next item is 2020-45Z County. Steve and Angela Chapman have filed an application to rezone tracts of land containing approximately 1.3269 acres located at, at a portion of 1310 Jack Smith Road from agriculture to RE residential estate with the general development plan. And we'll have the staff report.
Thank you, Chair Runner. We had a pre-application conference on September 3rd for the property you see outlined there in yellow. The applicants are requesting this zone change this evening in order to add the rear portion of the existing tract to an adjacent agricultural tract. The proposed density of this application would be 0.75 dwelling units per acre. Again, kind of like we saw on the last one, the proposal will result in the enlargement of an existing agricultural tract. A number of lots will remain the same, so no flume amendment required with this. And the proposed RE zone is a potentially compatible zoning designation in the agricultural flume category and may be appropriate if this body determines that the proposed development is compatible with the surrounding area. I'll just note under the compatibility with the surrounding development that there do appear to be adequate facilities and infrastructure available to support the proposed development, with exceptions noted regarding road width and water availability, which we'll look at in just a second. Looking at page 2 of your staff report, you'll see under layout, lot size, and setbacks, and you can see from the image here that there is an existing house, and that is proposed to remain. In the event the existing residence is ever replaced, setbacks will adhere to the RE standards set forth in the zoning ordinance. Jack Smith Road is a county-maintained rural local roadway that has 12 feet of pavement width. Water adequacy, the property is served by the Warren County Water District and does not have adequate water flow to meet the minimum fire protection requirements. However, because the total number of lots is proposed to remain the same, the proposal is exempt from this requirement. The small portion of the property contains a soil type that is classified as prime farmland, and the property contains a soil type that is classified as somewhat limited regarding soil suitability for septic tank absorption fields. Moving on to the site design and compatibility review, surrounding density. Densities for properties on Jack Smith Road range from 0 to 2.17 dwelling units per acre, with a median density of 0.04 dwelling units per acre and an average density of 0.42 dwelling units per acre. And again, the proposed density is 0.75 dwelling units per acre. And I usually do this earlier, but I forgot. The surrounding land uses, mostly agricultural, and you just got a smattering of single-family residential and some vacant tracts there. Surrounding architectural features, residences located on Jack Smith Road range from 1 to 2 stories in height. There are also taller agricultural buildings located in the area. Home sizes range from 1,146 square feet to 5,500 square feet, with a median home size of 1,891 square feet and an average home size of 2,071 square feet. The existing home on the property is 1,836 square feet. About half of the homes in the area have at least a two-car attached garage. The remaining homes have a mix of detached garages or no garage at all. The existing home has a two-car attached garage. Building materials, the existing home on the property is vinyl with a concrete block foundation. The majority of the existing residences on Jack Smith Road are constructed with a vinyl exterior. Several homes also incorporate brick as an exterior material. There are a few homes that also incorporate metal or wood exteriors. About half of the building foundations are brick or stone, and the remaining half is a mix of split face block, plain face block, poured concrete, and post and pier. Building orientation, the majority of existing residences along Jack Smith Road have a front facade oriented toward Jack Smith Road. Going on to page 3 of your staff report, I'll go ahead and read the 6 development plan conditions that the applicant submitted. Number 1, in the event the residence is ever replaced, no plain face block foundations will be allowed. Number 2, in the event the residence is ever replaced, a minimum of 1,400 square feet of heated living space will be required. Number 3, in the event the residence is ever replaced, the new residence will face Jack Smith Road. Number 4, any modifications to access to the property will be coordinated with and approved by the Warren County Public Works Department. Number 5, existing trees on the property will be preserved when feasible based on location, type, and condition. And number 6, the existing residents will continue to utilize the existing septic system located on the property. In the event the existing home is ever replaced, the Barren River District Health Department shall inspect the current system and/or issue a permit for a new septic system prior to any new home being constructed on the property. Moving on to the Focus 2030 category review, staff evaluated 10 items, 6 of which comply and 4 of which are left up to your determination. Those are LU 113, if the proposal is compatible with the area. LU2 and LU21, this body should determine if the proposal is a high quality development that will protect the character of the area. And NCR 241, the proposed development is located on a roadway less than the 18-foot minimum standard for county roads, and although exempt, is served with less than adequate water to meet the minimum fire protection requirements. The Planning Commission should determine if the proposed development will result in an increased amount of development pressure on the countryside, and if it complies with this item. And again, just noting on the staff review summary that this request is to reduce the amount of land with the existing house and add the rear portion of the property to the adjacent agricultural tract. We'll go back to page 1, just look at the points to consider to wrap up here. The proposal is exempt from compliance with the agriculture flume category. Again, like the last one, because the proposal will result in the enlargement of an existing agricultural tract and the number of lots will remain the same. The proposed development complies with the majority of the site characteristics review criteria, and the proposed general development plan complies with the majority of the review criteria for site design and compatibility and meets the minimum requirements in the zoning ordinance, with exceptions noted regarding road width. So that is all I have for the staff report, and I'm happy to answer any questions, and I believe the applicants are also on the call.
Thank you, ma'am. Any questions, commissioners, for Ms. Ramsey? No questions? Do we have any opposition to this request? No opposition. Do we have anything that the applicant would like to add? Nothing?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. Then I will just call for a motion, please.
I make
the motion to propose.
zoning map amendment together with a condition upon the general development plan, docket number 2020-45Z County. Based upon the testimony and documents presented in this public hearing, the proposed zoning map amendment is consistent with the adopted Focus 2030 comprehensive plan, is demonstrated by its compliance with the objectives and action items presented in this staff report. Therefore, the proposed zoning map amendment is in agreement with the adopted comprehensive plan. Further, I request that this motion include the summary of evidence and testimony presented by the witnesses at this public hearing.
Thank you, ma'am. We need a second.
Second.
Thank you.
Commissioner Clark,
Yes.
Commissioner Gay, Commissioner Gay, Commissioner Ritchie,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Starks, Commissioner Starks, Commissioner Unseld,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Vitale,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Volkert,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Warren,
Ma'am.
Commissioner Balance,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Blackburn, Commissioner Blackburn,
It appears
Yes,
that
ma'am.
we had Mr. Starks drop off, but I think we still have a quorum. Hamp, do you need to say anything?
Well, I was going to suggest that once Jessica completes the call, if she has, tell us how many affirmative votes you have.
well, I forgot one, Chair Runner.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
I didn't get to, I'm sorry.
No,
And you might go back and check on Commissioner Gay to see if he's prepared to vote now.
I'm here.
There is a motion to approve the zoning map amendment application. A yes vote would be in favor of the application.
Yes.
Thank you, sir. We have 10 yeas. That is a quorum.
Then the motion carries and our recommendation will be for approval. Thank you all.
Thank you.
The next item is 2020-46Z County, Southside Development LLC, and Mary Louise Smith Family Limited Partnership Number 1 have filed an application to rezone tracts of land containing approximately 48.3248 acres located on Morehead Road, bounded by Nashville Road and Cleveland Drive, from agriculture to RS1D, which is single family residential with a general development plan. And we will hear our staff report.
Thank you, Chair Runner. And I just got an email from Commissioner Starks. He's trying to log back in. He said he's having some issues with his internet connection, so hopefully he's back soon. With that, I think I need to gain control of the PowerPoint. Jessica, please. Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
All right, here we go. So we had a pre-application conference on August the 5th for the property outlined in yellow, or a portion of the property, which is outlined in yellow, located on McClellan Road. The applicants are proposing to rezone this portion of the property in order to develop a maximum of 215 single-family residential lots. If approved, the proposed development would be an extension of the adjacent proposed McClellan Crossing subdivision, which was rezoned in 2018 with a general development plan, which was also amended earlier this year. And if I jump to the zoning map, you'll see the development I'm referencing is this property zoned RS1C just to the east here. The current zoning of this property is agriculture, and the current use is also agriculture. The future land use designation for the property is moderate density residential. This future land use designation encourages areas developed for higher density single family detached and attached, including RS1C and RS1D, as well as semi-detached multifamily developments such as duplexes and townhouses, apartment buildings, condominiums, and mobile home parks. Densities in this land use should range between 3.5 and 13 dwelling units per acre. I'm gonna pull up the proposed preliminary development plan here. Give me 1 second. Here we go. So under site characteristics review, looking at the layout for the proposed subdivision, this is the proposed layout, and setbacks would adhere to the requirements in the RS1D zoning district as outlined in the zoning ordinance. I'm going to jump back to the aerial here, and we'll take a look at some of the natural features that are located on the property. You'll see that there are several mature trees clustered in the middle portion of the property, and that there is also a mature tree line along the northern and western property lines and portions of the southeastern property line. Sinkholes are also known to exist in the vicinity, and there are a few wetlands also located on the property. Jumping down to the site design and compatibility review, I'm going to jump to the density map in your packet. Subdivisions fronting McClellan Road are low to moderate density. Properties fronting Morehead Road are a mixture of large agricultural tracts and rural density residential properties. Densities of existing subdivisions in the area depicted on this map range from 0.21 to 5.46 dwelling units per acre. The density of the adjacent proposed McClellan Crossing subdivision is 2.53 dwelling units per acre, and the density for this proposed development is 4.45 dwelling units per acre. Let me jump back to the proposed layout here, and I'll move on to the surrounding architectural features. There are a mixture of 1- and 2-story homes of varying ages in the area. The development plan conditions for the adjacent proposed McClellan Crossings development incorporate a minimum home size of 1,400 and 1,600 square feet. The binding elements for the adjacent Greystone subdivision require minimum home sizes of 1,200, 1,250, and 1,350 square feet, which vary by portions of the subdivision. Building materials review: the majority of homes in the Greystone subdivision are vinyl. The majority of the homes in McClellan Farms are brick, stone, cement, siding, or other modern masonry or construction material. The development plan conditions for the adjacent development, which is the future McClellan Crossing subdivision, require the exterior facades of principal structures located on the property be constructed of at least 80% stone, brick, LP smart siding, EFIS, or other cementitious or modern masonry materials. Plain face block is prohibited. Under proposed open space, the RS1D zone allows a maximum of 75% lot coverage, meaning 25% of each lot will remain as open space. The applicants have also committed to providing sidewalks on both sides of the interior streets in Development Plan Condition 8. Looking at connectivity, the proposed development would connect with proposed substreets for Greystone subdivision and the proposed McClellan Crossing subdivision, and would also provide substreets into adjacent properties of 10 acres or more, which are depicted on this site plan that's before you. You can see to the west here, there are 2 proposed stub connections, also connections with Greystone, and to the proposed subdivision to the east here. Moving down to the development plan conditions: 1, all service utility lines will be located underground. 2, there shall be a maximum of 215 single-family dwelling units. 3, exterior facades of all principal structures located on the property will be constructed of vinyl, stone, brick, LP smart siding, EFIS, or other cementitious or modern masonry materials, and each residence shall have a brick foundation. Each residence shall have an attached 2-car garage. Plain face block shall be prohibited on all lots. All residences shall have a minimum of 1,200 square feet of heated living space, exclusive of porches and garages. This development plan condition shall remain a condition only until recordation of a subdivision plat or of the property, or recordation of restrictive covenants applicable to the property, after which this development plan condition shall be included in such plat and/or restrictive covenants and shall no longer be a development plan condition. 4, the property will be developed with uniform street lighting. 5, the property will be developed with an internal system of streets connecting with McClellan Crossing subdivision and with no more than 2 access points to Morehead Road. Each access point to Morehead Road shall be developed with a right turn lane on westbound Morehead Road, as may be required and specified by the Warren County Road Department. Morehead Road at its intersection with Nashville Road will be widened to create dedicated left and right turn lanes, as may be required and specified by the Warren County Road Department. 6, the property will be developed and maintained to preserve to the fullest extent practicable all trees with a caliper of at least 10 inches located within 8 feet of the perimeter property lines of the development. 7, prior to or simultaneously with the recordation of a plat of the property, a declaration of restrictive covenants applicable to the property will be recorded, which covenants shall provide for mandatory membership in a homeowners association and for ownership of all common areas by the homeowners association. 8, the property will be developed with sidewalks on both sides of interior streets. 9, fire hydrants will be located and spaced in cooperation with the Woodburn Fire Department. And last, sinkholes detected on the property prior to or during construction will be repaired or protected with a sinkhole structure using methods approved by the Warren County Public Works Stormwater Management, depending upon whether such sinkholes are located in a proposed drainage area. Next, we have a reference to section 3.1.4 from the zoning ordinance, which outlines the requirements for a traffic impact study. This section states that exceptions to this requirement may be approved after consultation between the applicant and the affected agency. In the case of this application, that would be the Warren County Public Works Department. When a project's traffic impact can clearly be anticipated without a study and all of the parties involved are able to negotiate an appropriate mitigation, a traffic impact study may not be necessary. The applicant must provide documentation from the applicable agency exempting their particular development from the traffic impact study requirement, along with the commitment in the form of a development plan condition agreeing to all improvements required by such agency. Again, in this case, the Warren County Public Works Department. And so the traffic impact study was waived by the Warren County Public Works Department in lieu of commitments for the following improvements. First, the installation of right turn deceleration lanes at the 2 access points on Morehead Road into the development. And second, the widening of the intersection at Morehead Road and Nashville Road to create dedicated left and right turn lanes. And the applicants did agree to these requirements in development plan condition 5. Moving on to the Focus 2030 category review, staff evaluated 17 items from the Focus 2030 comprehensive plan. 10 of those items were found to be in compliance, and there were 7 items that the Planning Commission should evaluate for compliance. The first, which is LU 1.1.3, the Planning Commission should determine if the proposal is compatible with the surrounding area. Next, LU 2 and 2.1, the Planning Commission should determine if the proposal is a high-quality development that will protect the character of the area. Moving on down, second from the bottom, HN1 and HN1.3. The Planning Commission should determine if the location of the planned development is suitable for the proposed housing type and if the proposed residences are believed to enhance the array of housing options available in the area. And last, HN 2.1 and HN 4. The Planning Commission should determine if the location of the planned development is suitable for the proposed housing type and if the proposed residences are believed to enhance the array of housing options available in the area. Going back to our points to consider on page 1, the proposal is consistent with the future land use map and moderate density residential category. Second, the proposed development complies with the majority of the site characteristics review criteria, the review criteria for site design, and meets the minimum requirements in the zoning ordinance. And third, compatibility of the proposed development should be determined by the Planning Commission. That is all I have for the staff report, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, ma'am. Commissioners, do you have any questions for Ms. Hurd before we hear from the applicant? No questions, and we'll go ahead and turn it over to the applicant, please. Is Mr. Brooks with us?
Mr. Brooks is learning how to unmute.
Oh, I apologize.
So thank you, Madam Chair. I'm Kevin Brooks, and I do represent the applicant. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. It's been a long night for you folks already, and I'll try my very best to not make it any worse. And so what I think I might want to do is ask Ms. Hurt 2 or 3 questions, and then we'll see what else you all might want to hear from us. So Ms. Hurt, just to quickly reiterate, I think you mentioned, I'm not sure I caught all of it, but in any event, could you compare the binding elements for the adjacent Greystone subdivision? This proposal is basically adjacent to Greystone on 2 long property lines. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
You have looked at what the, for instance, minimum house sizes in those adjacent Greystone sections are to what we are proposing here tonight. Would you tell us again what those were?
Yes, the minimum home size in the section that you were just referencing, and I'll point to the map here. Can everybody see the hand on the screen? Hopefully.
Yes, ma'am.
The northern property lines here. So this section of Greystone, the binding elements for that portion require a minimum of 1,200 square feet of living space and 1,350 square feet of living space. And that's just, it varies by section. If we go back to the zoning map, that portion of Greystone is, oh, I'm going the wrong way. There are numerous properties that are subject to those binding elements that are roughly in this area here. So those home sizes vary. They're more restrictive up closer to McClellan Road, and as you get further back into the subdivision, that's where you find the 1,200 square foot minimums.
Okay, thank you. Just to review what we did in terms of getting a waiver for a traffic study, you mentioned that the road section, Morehead Road, is a county road, so you needed to hear from the county about that. But we also did ask the Kentucky Transportation Cabinet to look at this project too, did we not?
Yes, that's correct, and they did not ask for any improvements at the Nashville Road intersection.
And so the only improvements that were asked for were asked by the Warren County Road Department, and we agreed to everything that they asked for. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So I know that the commissioners know how this process works, so I don't want to belabor this, but real quickly, we file our application and our suggested development plan conditions, and then the staff does a review, and typically, and did on this occasion, gets back in touch with me as the attorney and with the applicant with I'll call it a punch list, but with a list of several things you might want us to consider, additions to or changes to our proposal. Is that right?
Yes.
You did that in this case, is that right?
I did.
And the applicant responded positively to all of those requests, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Madam Chair, I think there may be some other folks who want to speak at this hearing. I just don't know that in terms of explaining to you the nature of this development, we have a lot more to add to the staff report. Both of the members of Southside Development are here, 3 different venues, but I think they're all on the call. I think I saw a few minutes ago that Rodney McGahee, our engineer, I hope he's still on the call. We'll be delighted to answer any questions or provide any other information you might want from us.
Thank you, sir. We'll go ahead. Commissioners, do you have any questions for Mr. Brooks before we open it up to opposition?
Rachel, my only question is, if I heard correctly in the binding elements, there's not a percentage on vinyl. So Greystone that backs up to it, are those all 100% vinyl? Can they be 100% vinyl?
Yes.
Yes. In the binding elements, there's no material restriction. The only restrictions were on square footage.
And that is compatible with Greystone.
Yes, the binding elements.
Okay.
Yes, for Greystone, there's no material requirement.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
How far is McClellan crossings from there? McClellan, are those nicer houses without a lot of vinyl?
Commissioner Clark, the subdivision you're referencing is the proposed subdivision that, if you look at the screen here, it would adjoin this development to the east. So along this, on this line here, can you see my hand?
Yes, yes, I do.
And so I do have the development plan conditions for that development, and there are material requirements, which do require 80% stone brick, LP Smart siding, ephes, or cementitious material.
Do you see where it says preliminary, not for land transfer, for review only?
Yes.
Who owns that and what is that area that's there on the east?
That's part of this application that's under the ownership of the Mary Louise Smith Family Limited Partnership #1. So that's all under the same ownership, and Lucas or Rodney may want to speak to that, but that's just to indicate that this concept plan that's on the screen before you is a preliminary layout.
Okay.
It may help.
And Rachel, I want to make sure that I didn't misspeak. I don't mean vinyl houses are not nice. I was just wanting to make sure it was compatible.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Clarify something. If we could go back to the, I guess, existing land use or existing zoning, either one. So if you see the outline of the red, that's property. There's actually another development between this one and McClellan Crossing that is, I don't know if I think it's currently being built under construction, but there is another, just to clarify that, right where the cursor is, there is, yes, there you go. There's the outline of it. So there is another development currently between McClellan Crossing and this proposed development. But essentially this will be an extension of all of those.
Ben, I'm sorry, the RS1C zoning on this map, that is the proposed McClellan Crossings subdivision.
Okay.
And then just beyond that,
McClellan Farms, I'm sorry.
yeah, just beyond that in the RS1A is the McClellan Farms subdivision, you're right.
Any other questions before I open it up to the opposition?
Can I ask one more question?
Yes, ma'am.
With almost 600 vehicles that were attempting here, why was there no traffic impact study?
Commissioner Clark, it was waived by the Warren County Public Works Department in lieu of the commitment to make the improvements that are listed in the staff report on page 4, I believe.
4?
Yes.
Morehead Rd.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I believe we have opposition or people who have questions.
Yeah, the first one that we have on our list is Emily Graham, and then we have Joey Upchurch after that. So,
Miss Graham, then.
Yes, ma'am. Emily Graham, 120 Cleveland Drive, Bowling Green, Kentucky.
And you swear to tell the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, you can go ahead.
Thank you, ma'am. I want to let everyone know that I've spent a great deal of time going up and down this street and knocking doors and talking to the people in this neighborhood. First off, many said they were never given notice about this. The reason I knew about it is I finally was able to see the sign about the rezoning change. It was hidden by weeds for a little while. So a lot of people out here didn't even know this was going on. Some people couldn't attend tonight because they were at work. Of course, I guess if they knew we was going to be on here till 8 o'clock, they would have had time to pop in. There was a lot of people, older individuals, that are opposed to it, but don't have access. They don't know what Zoom is. They don't have a computer. So they're not able to express their opposition like a few of us are. And I did notice at the very beginning of this meeting, there was several people on this Zoom meeting that I've spoke to who have now dropped off, which I'm guessing is because they have other commitments. My first concern is that we're talking about 215 homes on 48 acres. That's approximately 0.22 an acre. I mean, a home on 0.22 of an acre. If you look at the maps out here, almost all homes are an acre or more. My home is on an acre, and I believe that that's probably close to the small end. Most homes out here are 5 to 10 acres at least. The The staff report stated that there would be 2-car garage homes. And as the other commissioner spoke, that would add, in my calculation, if you're going to assume 2 cars per home, approximately 430 extra cars to this neighborhood. There's already a lot of heavy traffic out here. I'm not sure how many of you all have been out on Morehead Road and know the traffic. A lot of people use it as a cut through between Nashville Road and Russellville Road. If you're familiar with the area, the house with the fence that is there no more, but half of it's hanging on, that's my house. Cars come crashing through there all the time, going way too fast. They miss the curve. Adding extra cars to this street is going to create more accidents. The road is very narrow. I believe the staff report said it's 19 feet. When I was looking at the Kentucky Transportation Highway Division guidance model, 18 feet is minimum with low volume for a low volume road. This isn't a low volume road right now. It would be even a higher volume road if this many houses go in. I realize you say it was waived because of the proposals to the changes out here, but those proposals, that it's not even acceptable. I mean, you need to come out here and look at this to see what we're talking about. The Nashville Road, trying to get onto Nashville Road from Morehead is a nightmare. There's wrecks there every day. Our road is a rural country road. It's not striped. It's deteriorated on the sides. So that 19 foot is probably in very few sections of this road because this road is not maintained well at all. There's many times I meet a school bus and I have to get off on the side of the road because there's not enough room for both of us to be on the road at the same time. There's many athletes out here that run our road. If we add extra cars out here, those athletes are not going to be safe. And then the added construction traffic. If you're talking about 215 homes, the amount of noise, the traffic, those heavy construction vehicles, it's going to continue to harm this deteriorating road. Let's see, what else? I have a question about the sewer hookup because the staff report says that it's less than 2,000 feet from a sewer hookup. I'm assuming that's going to connect into the Greystone subdivision, which you all have already talked about, which leads me to another issue is that Greystone is annexed, which means that that subdivision pays Warren County Schools property tax and Bowling Green property taxes. And we didn't move to the county to pay city taxes and not get the city benefits. And one of my fears is that this linking into backing up to that Greystone subdivision is going to cause this area out here to be annexed into the city. So that is one question about the annexing and the sewer, since I'm on septic. You mentioned in the staff report that 25% would be open space. It's another question for you. With homes on less than 0.22 of an acre, how are you going to leave 25% for open space? And I'm no builder, but I don't think you're going to have much space left after you put a house on that small of a lot. And that's all I've got right now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair Runner, I can try to answer some of those questions if that would be appropriate.
Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
So I was trying to take some notes here. The sewer connection, I guess there was a question as to where that connection would come from. That would be a fair statement that the existing sewer availability runs through Greystone and would provide access to this property either that way or through the proposed McClellan Crossing subdivision just to the east. Regarding open space, the staff report, you're correct that it states a minimum of 25% per lot, and the proposed zoning district of RS1D requires a minimum lot size in that particular zone of at least 5,000 square feet. So at least 1,250 square feet of that 5,000 would have to remain open space. I think there was a question about annexation, and Ben, you may want to correct me if I'm wrong, but the city will not annex property without the owner consent. So even if the city were to expand right up to your property line, the city is not going to annex your property without your consent.
I would like to speak to that because I know that is not true. I'm a CPA and I have clients that has happened to, that their property has been annexed in even though they did not approve of it.
So, well, in the city of Bowling Green, at least recently, I'm not aware of that happening. Hamp or Ben, you may want to speak to that.
So this is Kevin Brooks. I'll speak to that briefly. I think it might be difficult to speak in an absolute that the city will never annex unless you agree to it, but that has certainly been strongly the city's property for, I would say, decades. I don't believe anybody can point to any subdivision like this being annexed unless the property owners asked to be annexed. And I will tell you, we have no intention to ask to be annexed.
I agree with that description.
Thank you both. Who do we have next that would like to make a statement?
Mr. Upchurch, go right ahead.
Okay. Yeah, my name's Joey Upchurch, 481 Cleveland Drive.
And you swear to tell the truth before this commission?
I do.
Thank you, sir.
Hey, I do understand that they did have, they are going to put in a left turn lane from Morehead Road to Nashville Road. My concern is, even right now, sometimes you wait 10 to 20 minutes just to turn left from Morehead Road to Nashville Road. Even with a left turn lane, that's not going to make much difference because most people turn left anyways. So that's not going to help without a traffic light. Everything that Emily said was just about correct. This is a 1.5 lane road with a steep ditch. There's no lines on the road, period. So it's a curvy road. Like she said, if there's a school bus, you're going down the road and there's a school bus coming towards you, or even a large diesel truck, you almost have to stop to let a vehicle pass you. It's not a 2-lane road by no means. So I don't know if any of you have been out this way and saw the traffic, but it is a curvy road. So I'm not sure even one entrance, let alone two, is not going to be feasible for Morehead Road unless they're going to widen the road, the complete road, just not that section, and put a traffic light at Nashville Road and Morehead Road. So, I mean, you guys really just need to drive down the road. It's pretty bad as it is. And that's all I got. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. And who do we have next?
Last one we have in the chat was Willingham.
Yes. I think, there you go. Yes, ma'am.
Amy Willingham, 2006 Morehead Road. And yes, I promise to tell the truth.
Thank you, ma'am.
I agree that these homes all are compatible with the Greystone subdivision. They do fit with that subdivision, but they do not fit with Morehead Road and the homes up and down through here. Emily spoke to the lot sizes. We have a mixture of brick and vinyl and all different kinds of things. But our homes are spaced apart. We have privacy. It is not compatible at all, but I agree it is compatible with Greystone. And I don't think most of us would even have a problem if that development ended and there was all of that just ended and there was no exit onto Morehead Road. We would not have a problem for that to probably back right up to the end of the road and let that be the back of that subdivision. but the fact that it is emptying out onto our road, and you're not talking about just 430 extra cars, you're talking about all of that subdivision potentially exiting onto our road. So it's not just 430. It could be thousands of cars coming out of there at any given time. I have a son who is 16 years old and just started driving, and it scares me every day that he leaves out of here to go to school because he has to enter and exit on Nashville Road. And we have a school out here, high school, with lots of students that will be doing the same thing. This is a desirable area. I know people want to be out here, but we have to think of our students and those who are driving up and down through there. I am appalled that we are not talking about a traffic light there. There was an accident just last week. There was a gentleman that had to be life flighted to Nashville with brain damage. I cannot even believe we're not discussing a traffic light at the end of this road. The numerous times that we've had to sit and wait for traffic to pass by, in the mornings especially, in the afternoons when it's work time, school time releasing, but even more so now, it's almost all the time as this area develops more and more. It's not just those heavy period traffic times. I strongly oppose this development as it is. And like I said, I cannot even believe that a traffic study was waived for this and that there is no proposal for a traffic light there. Especially with McClellan Road over there at Greystone having a traffic light there, I can't imagine that this does not warrant the same level. I am completely opposed to this, and I'm within 200 feet of where this road will empty out.
Thank you, ma'am.
Could staff possibly show us the main, with their little hand on there, show us the main entries and exits to this subdivision?
Yes, Commissioner Clark, there are two proposed entrances on Morehead Road. The first here, and then there's another one further east at
Down
this
that,
location.
where that curve is?
Yes, after the curve.
Okay. Those are going to be the main in and outs.
As proposed, yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, it'll have other, will it hook up with that other neighborhood back there too?
Yes, sir. There are stud connections with the proposed streets in Greystone that would extend here. And then there are other connections proposed back with the McClellan Crossing subdivision. And then there are some other stud streets proposed to undeveloped property, but there would be two other connections to roadways that we know are planned.
So it'll be 4 total.
Yes.
Do we have anyone else in opposition waiting to speak?
May I add another comment? This is Emily again.
Yes, ma'am.
I would just like to reiterate what Amy said. I mean, this does not fit with our neighborhood. I mean, she hit the nail on the head that it fits with Greystone, but it doesn't fit through here. And again, the 0.22 acre, I mean, you can easily look at the maps you have in front of you and see that those homes do not fit with the homes that are on Morehead. I mean, it will completely disrupt this road besides the traffic flow. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Chair Runner, we do have Ms. Stacy Carter who has raised her hand, but I'll just remind everybody, we've heard about traffic and safety. We've heard about the rural character. We've heard about compatibility and density. So again, repetitive comments, we try to limit those, but Ms. Carter, I think.
Yeah, this is Jonathan Carter on his wife's phone at 2046 Morehead Road, and I swear to tell the truth.
Thank you, sir. Can you go ahead and...
Yeah, I just wanted to bring up a larger point. If you look at that entire McClellan subdivision, right now, the people are on the backside of that are not part of the proposed subdivision are having to drive probably, I don't know, 10 minutes to get out of that subdivision. And this is going to give them an out. So what I see is the people who live back in that subdivision are not going to use McClellan to get out. They're going to use Morehead Road. So the proposed 400 extra vehicles is not the total sum of what's going to be used to come out on the Morehead. It's probably going to be half of that subdivision, because if you look at it, if you'd bring it up, the whole thing, Morehead Road is closer for a lot of these people and Nashville to get out on Nashville Road than it is to actually get out on McClellan. So I think the traffic study being waived probably did not take that into consideration, I would have to think. And that's my question. Did it take the other traffic coming out into consideration?
Mr. Carter, this is Rachel Hurt on staff here at the Planning Commission. I can't answer that question. We defer to our sister agencies. In this case, it was the Warren County Public Works Department, so I'm not sure if they factored that into their waiver requirement or not.
So I'm curious, not knowing that, and I'm assuming that no one else on this commission knows that question. The question I have, are you still going to vote tonight on this without knowing all the facts?
Well, this commission will vote on it tonight. I mean, the fact that the Warren County, that they waived it, tells us that it does not need to be, it's not under consideration tonight, if I understand you correctly.
Yes, so there's no way for us to, as people who are concerned, I live on adjacent property to this.
Yes, sir.
So there's no way for us to have them reconsider that request?
Yes, sir. It's a Warren County Fiscal Court.
Yes, sir. No matter what happens tonight, this has to go to Warren County Fiscal Court. And so if that's a concern that the traffic study should not have been waived, that is where you would bring that up.
Great. Thank you for your information.
Yes, sir.
Chair Runner, this is Hamp Moore. I think maybe the use of the word waive means tends to lead one to conclude that the Public Works Department doesn't care or is not concerned with traffic issues. I think what is actually the case is that the Public Works Department looks at the proposals made by the developer, and those have been outlined here as it pertains to the left turn signal and other modifications that are being made to accommodate the subdivision. And then the Public Works Department chooses not to conduct a separate traffic impact study because it believes that the developer has made an adequate attempt at that. So the use of the word waive seems to suggest that nothing has been done, but rather I think the definition of that term is that it accepts what the developer has proposed, and what the developer has proposed is significant. So
Hamp, I agree with that. I think you're right. I think sometimes they or us use the word waive, meaning that nobody looked at it and there's no care to it. I think they have looked at it, and by what them saying they're waiving it is they're not asking for any additional study to be done, and what is being proposed is adequate into what they think and for whichever development they're looking at.
I would say you both are correct. A better term that we probably should start using is improvements in lieu of a traffic impact study. While I can't speak to the thoughts or what was considered with this particular process, I do know that the Public Works Department did review this and also did contact KYTC District 3 office and ask about improvements. So what you have before you is the result of that.
Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate so much the explanation on that. That's very helpful. Do we have anyone else that would like to ask a question or make a statement in opposition? We've heard from all the opposition.
I will just say we have one more question come through, and it's, I guess, to the applicants. It says, can the plan be changed to not have an access point on Morehead Road?
So I'll see if I can answer that question. It might, even though it's addressed to the applicant, the staff may or may not want to weigh in on this, and we'll see if I can combine an answer to that question with some very, very, very brief final remarks. So I think the answer to the question is we really cannot. That is not to say that the entrances we see here are carved in stone. They may migrate a little bit, but I believe the staff would say, because we've all heard it so many times, that development which allows traffic to diffuse in multiple directions is really good planning for our community, and we would not want to say one whole side of a development is not available for traffic to get in and out of. I'll just kind of defend our Public Works Department a little bit. We can't get in their head to know what they thought about when they agreed to some improvements in lieu of a traffic study, but it's a little insulting to think they don't understand their traffic, their road system in Warren County. They're very familiar with this. And I will say, in connection with those who have said, why not a traffic light at Nashville Road, the applicant would be delighted if the state would have asked for a traffic light at Nashville Road. And the point there is this, sometimes they ask for road widenings and traffic control devices and additional lanes and traffic lights, and they could have asked for any or all of that, and they did not. And so we've done all we can do.
Well, and I would also add that if that does need to be changed and the two entrances do not need to come off there, that fiscal court would be a place that you would maybe make this argument.
I also want that for safety emergency vehicles too, to have access.
Absolutely.
As well, so that's another reason for these there.
Absolutely.
Commissioners, I may add one thing, just from the staff side.
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, you see in the staff report almost every application we have references to TR 2.1 and LU 231, which are transportation related items from the comprehensive plan. Those items require that adjacent developments provide for internal circulation between them and have considerations for stub streets into undeveloped properties for that very reason, to provide multiple routes and interconnectivity for the purposes of safety and reducing congestion, and ultimately making the roadways in our community safer by doing that. And so I think that's just one element that's in the comprehensive plan that may be worth mentioning here, also supported further by our subdivision regulations, which require interconnectivity between subdivisions.
Thank you, ma'am.
Rachel.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you.
Anything else?
The only thing I would like to suggest, and I think Ben brought this up, we might look at using some different terminology than the word wave. Seems like that may have created some confusion. Going forward, we might just look and see if there's something else that can be.
Yeah, they did.
Agree.
So it's less confusing.
Thank you, sir.
Did you say that there would be a dedicated turning lane to go into this subdivision from Morehead Road, turning from Morehead Road into the subdivision? You said there would be a dedicated turning lane there?
Yes, ma'am. That was one of the requirements of the Public Works Department. that the developer install right-hand turn deceleration lanes at the 2 access points that are proposed on this concept.
I would like to ask a question on page 19 of our packet. It says 317 lots plus or minus proposed, and yet the document talks about 215. So is there ample room in there for there to be another 98 lots if they so choose?
I'm trying to pull up page 19. I think that might be from our original pre-application meeting. Give me 1 second and I'll get there.
That is.
It is.
Yes, and so ultimately the request that's before you has been scaled down to 215. And so after we met during our pre-application meeting, I think it was discovered through the developer and their engineers that the initial number of lots that was discussed, at least for this portion of the development, would not be able to be accommodated. And so the proposal this evening is for 215 lots.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Do we have anything else?
I have a question regarding what she just said. She said this portion of the development. Does that mean there's another portion of a development coming later? So there will be more houses that we don't know about yet?
I believe that is what is under consideration tonight, the one development that we're talking about tonight.
Yes, I keep going the wrong way in the PowerPoint. I apologize. The request this evening only involves a portion of the property. So if you look, let me go back to the zoning map here. So the red outlined area is what is under consideration this evening, but there's a portion of the property that is proposed to remain zoned agriculture. There are no plans for that portion of the property at this time. I can't speak to what the developer and or property owners would propose in the future.
But our consideration tonight is simply that red area.
Yes, ma'am.
Outlined in red. Yes, ma'am.
Correct.
Any
So
comments?
this is Dwayne Carter. I do have a question for the developer.
Your who, please? Go ahead. You have a question?
Yes, I do. In the proposed drainage area on the former slide, I think that shows the development, that retention area borders my property. I'm curious, is that where the lift station will be located? Is in that corner by the proposed drainage area?
Is that for the applicant?
So,
Lucas, are you able to answer that?
yeah, sorry. Took me a second to get unmuted there.
We'll get you sworn in, Mr.
Yes,
Slavy.
ma'am.
Your name and address, please.
Lucas Slavy, 1015 Shive Lane,
And
Bowling
you,
Green, Kentucky.
and you swear to tell the truth?
Yes, ma'am, I sure do.
Yes, you can go ahead and answer.
Yes, sir. To answer your question, we have it shown there, just a little square, it's a 40 by 40. That's a preliminary location that will be nailed down later on during the design process should this pass, but we had to pick a spot to show the water district and everyone else that it could potentially work and would be able to be served by sewer before we could take it this far.
All right. So I'm assuming that land has been surveyed. Do you have details on that retention area, the depth and that type thing?
Yes, sir.
How deep is that retention area?
I would have to pull it up. I don't have it in these documents that we're looking at tonight. It's pretty large. It's a regional low spot there, several acres.
Right. All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
But one thing to add to that, I think that it comes up a lot of meetings, is It is their job to make sure that the water stays on their property and does not come onto your property.
All right, very, very good point. I'm curious. I know the rest of this map has already been developed because I've seen it in the past. So does that retention area get larger as the new development is proposed, or is that self-contained there?
We will design that to make sure that that area stays within its limits. And we will design it based on the zoning regulations and lot coverage. There'll be a lot of things that come into play, and it will account for any of this development. We typically don't account for future developments unless we're asked to. It's an unnecessary expense for something that may or may not ever happen, but we do account for everything that's going to be developed within this project. Absolutely.
But Lucas, it's fair to say that it's self-contained.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, I think that was his question, and I think that's the point that needs to be made. Yeah.
I misunderstood. Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Commissioners, do you all have anything that you would like to say or add before I call for a motion? Nothing? Then I will ask for a motion, please.
Make a motion to approve zoning map amendment together with and conditioned upon a general development plan, docket number 2020-46Z County, based upon the testimony and documents presented in this public hearing. Proposed zoning map amendment is consistent with the adopted Focus 2030 comprehensive plan, as demonstrated by its compliance with objectives and action items presented in the staff report. Therefore, the proposed zoning map amendment is in agreement with the adopted comprehensive plan. Further request this motion include a summary of evidence and testimony presented by the witnesses at this public hearing.
Thank you. We need a second.
Second.
Thank you.
Commissioner Day,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Ritchie,
No, ma'am, I'm concerned with the density as well as the traffic flow.
Commissioner Starks,
Yes.
Commissioner Unseld,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Vitale,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Volkert,
Yes, ma'am, sorry.
Commissioner Warren,
Ma'am.
Commissioner Balance,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Blackburn,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Clark.
No, I do not believe that this property meets the compatibility with the other properties on Morehead Road when we have two in and outs on Morehead Road. I think there's certainly a safety issue on Morehead Road when it's an unlined county road with different widths, and they're talking about putting a decelerated right lane into an unlined county road. And I think we're trying to add moderate density along, low density all along Morehead Road. So my vote is no.
Chair Runner.
Yes, ma'am. The motion carries with opposition, so our recommendation will be for approval. Thank you all.
Thank you.
And our last item on the agenda tonight is docket number 2020-47Z County. Janetta Oliver and Terry Sims have filed an application to rezone a tract of land containing approximately 5.02 acres located at 294 Aaron Road from agriculture to RR, which is rural residential with a general development plan. And now we'll have the staff report.
Thank you, Chair Runner. Last one of the evening. I appreciate everyone's time, and I know it's been late, so I will try to be brief yet thorough at the same time. So moving along here, the property location, as you mentioned, is on Aaron Road. The current zoning of the property is agriculture. The current use is also agriculture. And the future land use designation for the property is low density residential. This particular category comprises areas designated for single-family detached development and attached single-family development, including twin homes where each unit is platted on its own individual lot. Density should range from 0 to 4.5 dwelling units per acre. Moving on to the layout, lot sizes, and setbacks, you'll see that there's a proposed division to create 2 lots as shown before you on the concept plan. And the setbacks would adhere to the RR, or rural residential standards, in the zoning ordinance, which include a 25-foot side and rear yard setback. The applicants did provide or agree to provide a 50-foot front yard setback in their development plan conditions. Under wastewater adequacy, staff has noted that there is an existing residence on the property that utilizes an on-site septic system. The proposed lot and proposed residence on lot 1-2 would also utilize an on-site septic system. Under natural features, we've highlighted that there are a few mature tree lines running along the southern and eastern property lines, and that there's also a small line of trees running in the west central portion of the property. Sinkholes are known to exist in the vicinity. Under surrounding density, moving on to the site design and compatibility section, densities for the existing subdivisions along Aaron Road and in the vicinity of the development range from 0.06 to 0.90 dwelling units per acre. And the density for the proposed development is 0.40 dwelling units per acre. Surrounding architectural features, homes within 1/4 mile range from 1 to 2 stories in height. Home sizes range from 1,105 square feet to 4,525 square feet, with a median home size of 2,149 square feet and an average home size of 2,261 square feet. The majority of homes have a two-car attached garage. Under building material review, a little over half of the homes within 1/4 mile are vinyl. A little under half have exteriors of brick, stone, or cement board siding. A couple of homes are also metal. The majority of foundations are brick, with the remaining foundations a mix of stone, plain face block, split face block, poured concrete, and post and pier foundations. Building orientation, the existing homes along the east side of Aaron Road are oriented to face Aaron Road, and the applicants agreed in the development plan conditions in number 1 that any new home constructed on the property would also face Aaron Road. Jumping onto the development plan conditions, I just read number 1. Number 2, the existing residents will continue to utilize the existing septic system on the property. In the event that the existing home is ever replaced, the Barren River District Health Department shall inspect the current system and or issue a permit for a new system prior to any new home being constructed on the property. 3, any existing or found sinkholes within the development will be identified and repaired prior to any development above said sinkhole. 4, existing mature trees on the property will be preserved when feasible based on location, type, and condition. 5, modifications to existing access points or installation of any new access points to the property shall be coordinated with and approved by the Warren County Public Works Department. 6, the applicant reserves the right to replace the existing mobile home with either a newer model mobile home or manufactured home. Any other newly constructed residence shall have exterior materials of brick, stone, vinyl, modern masonry, cementitious material, hardy board siding, wood, or metal. Any other newly constructed residence shall have a foundation of brick, stone, modern masonry, cementitious material, or split face block. Plain face block shall be prohibited. Number 7, any new residence placed on the property shall have a front setback of 50 feet. And 8, any new residence placed on the property shall have a minimum area of 1,200 square feet. Going down to the Focus 2030 review section, staff evaluated 14 items. There were 4 items that the Planning Commission should evaluate for compliance. The first, LU 1.1.3, the Planning Commission should determine if this is a compatible development. Next, LU 2, the Planning Commission should determine if the proposal is a high-quality development that will protect the character of the area. And last, HN 2.1 and HN 4, the Planning Commission should determine if the proposed development is located in a suitable location and if it will enhance the array of housing options available in the area. Just in summary, again, there's an existing mobile home located on the property on lot 1-1 that's on the concept plan. The applicants would like to subdivide the property for an additional building lot, lot 1-2, in order to sell that portion of the property to then allow the construction of an additional home on that lot. And then the points to consider on page 1, the proposal is consistent with the future land use map and complies with the majority of the site characteristics review criteria. And the proposed plan also complies with the majority of the review criteria for site design and meets the minimum requirements in the zoning ordinance. compatibility should be determined by the Planning Commission. That is all for the staff report, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, ma'am. Commissioners, you have any questions? No questions. Is there anything that the applicant would like to add?
No.
Nothing? Okay.
No.
Do we have any opposition to this request?
No.
No opposition, no questions, then I will call for a motion.
Make a motion to approve the proposed zoning map amendment together with and conditioned upon the general development plan docket number 2020-47Z County. Based upon the testimony and documents presented in this public hearing, the proposed zoning map amendment is consistent with the adopted Focus 2030 comprehensive plan as demonstrated by its compliance with the objectives and action items presented in this staff report. Therefore, the proposed zoning map amendment is in agreement with the adopted comprehensive plan. Further, I request that this motion include the summary of the evidence and testimony presented by the witnesses at this public hearing.
Thank you, ma'am. We need a second.
Second.
Thank you, ma'am.
Commissioner Clark,
Yes.
Commissioner Ritchie,
Yes.
Commissioner Stark,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Unseld,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Vitale,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Volkert,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Warren,
Ma'am.
Commissioner Balance,
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Blackburn,
Yes, ma'am.
Chair Runner.
Yes, ma'am. The motion carried. Our recommendation will be for approval. That's the last item for public hearing. Any discussion items?
No, ma'am, I think we outlasted the party on the square, so it's probably we call it a night.
Okay, well, I want to thank you all. I appreciate the good comments and the suggestions from the commissioners.
Thank you.
And all the staff for helping me. I appreciate y'all very much. Thank you, and the meeting is adjourned.